A very good morning to you. It's 7 o'clock. Welcome to Mornings with Ridge and Frost.
With Sophy and Wilf, good morning from both of us. Thanks for joining us today.
Lord Peter Mandelson quits the Labour Party to avoid further embarrassment over his links to Jeffrey Epstein.
A crackdown on people smuggling, up to 5 years in prison for social media users who advertise illegal routes into the UK.
A former TikTok employee tells Sky News of claims of a culture of bullying, harassment and union busting within the company.
The boss of the UK's leading tech company says the UK is too risk-averse and lacks the hunger to succeed.
And British singer Olivia Dean among the big winners at a highly political Grammy Awards.
Good morning, welcome to the show. Lord Mandelson has quit the Labour Party to avoid causing it, he says, further embarrassment. This comes, of course, after the latest release of the Epstein files.
We had another huge release of material on Friday, including email exchanges and thousands of videos and images, and they revealed the close connections the convicted paedophile had to the rich and powerful. We should say that appearing in the files is no evidence of wrongdoing.
But look, some of the material is quite something, like this. A picture appearing to show the man we formerly referred to as Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, on all fours over an unidentified young woman.
And this photo appearing to show Peter Mandelson in his underwear and a T-shirt standing next to a woman in a dressing gown. We do not know when, where or by whom the photo was taken. Lord Mandelson was sacked as US Ambassador last year because of his links to Epstein. Now, documents Sky News has analysed also suggest that Epstein paid Lord Mandelson $75,000 in the early 2000s. The revelations have led to his decision to step down from the Labour Party.
Now, we've got a statement from Lord Mandelson. He said in the statement, "I've been further linked this weekend to the understandable furore surrounding Jeffrey Epstein, and I feel regretful and sorry about this allegations, which I believe to be false, that he made financial payments to me 20 years ago and of which I have no record or recollection need investigating by me."
His statement goes on, "While doing this, I do not wish to cause further embarrassment to the Labour Party, and I'm therefore stepping down from membership of the party."
We're going to discuss this in more detail in just a few moments. But before we do, we just want to remind you a bit of the figure who, look, is at the centre of all of this, because a pretty chilling clip has emerged of Jeffrey Epstein in a sit-down interview. The interview doesn't appear on camera, but we think it's Steve Bannon, who served in the White House for part of Donald Trump's first presidential term as his chief strategist. The circumstances around the interview are also unclear, but just let's listen to him. This is him being quizzed about whether his money was dirty money and whether he's a sexual predator.
What are you, class 3 sexual predator?
Tier 1.
Was tier 1's the highest and worst?
No, so I'm
the lowest?
I'm the lowest.
You're
yes.
the lowest. Okay, tier 1, you're the lowest. But a criminal.
Yes.
That the money came from them. What percentage of people do you estimate, I understand you don't like probabilities, do you estimate would say, I don't care, I want the money for my children?
I would say everyone said, I want the money for my children.
Well, Mari's here to discuss this further. Mari, I guess over the weekend everyone was saying, why hasn't Keir Starmer expelled him from the Labour Party? Talking, of course, about Peter Mandelson again now. Why hasn't he been expelled? He's obviously gone ahead and resigned. That's a sort of reversal of the process of events that led to him stepping down as ambassador. All of it doesn't reflect brilliantly on Keir Starmer either way.
Well, that's what the opposition are trying to argue this morning. Kemi Badenoch basically saying that actually Keir Starmer didn't have the backbone to sack Lord Mandelson, as in get rid of him from the party, and has allowed him to resign, and should never have allowed him to resign, should have taken that action himself. And that's what she is arguing. She's also trying to claim credit for him not being getting gotten rid of as the ambassador to the US back in the autumn as well, saying that that was the Conservatives shaming the Labour Party into doing it. So The Tories are trying to make a lot of, trying to use up a lot of their political capital by trying to say that they are actually pushing further than Labour on this. But I think if we put that to one side for a second, Keir Starmer was quite clear yesterday when he was talking about Andrew, but also about Mandelson, but specifically about Andrew. But if we stick on Mandelson for a second, the government line has been perhaps slightly less forceful, let's say, than it was on Andrew. However, we obviously don't know the kind of discussions that have gone on behind closed doors that have led to the point where Lord Mandelson at 10:30 at night last night decided to leave the Labour Party. And when you read out that resignation letter, I think what was interesting was he talked about how he wanted to reduce embarrassment for the Labour Party. He said that it was in the Labour Party's best interest for him to step down. And his emphasis was on the fact that he loves the Labour Party and wants to protect the Labour Party. The irony, perhaps, is how much has he already damaged the Labour Party by staying in it this long, and with all of these revelations and this kind of drip of information that has come out. We still don't know whether he might, for instance, be giving evidence to US Congress at some point, whether he might actually do that and what that might look like. And as far as we know, he is still a member of the House of Lords. So the question will be, will there be a huge amount of effort to try and get him to leave the House of Lords?
I mean, those two photos, you know, the photos of Lord Mandelson, firstly, and secondly, the ones of, you know, I keep wanting to say Prince Andrew, but it's Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, of course. I mean, they are extraordinary, both of them. Like, they kind of take your breath away when you look at them. We've spoken about Lord Mandelson. Is the government also under pressure? They're also putting pressure on Andrew Mountbatten Windsor as well, aren't they, Mari?
Yeah, exactly. So what we saw yesterday on Sky News with the Cabinet Minister Steve Reid talking to Sky News, saying that he believed that anybody with information or evidence about Epstein needs to give evidence, needs to come forward, when he was asked specifically around whether Andrew should be giving evidence to Congress in the US. And the Prime Minister has also said the same thing. He said, you cannot be victim-led if you are not going to then essentially offer up any information you might have. Let me read you what the PM said. So he said Epstein's victims have been the first priority, have to be the first priority. As for whether there should be an apology, that's a matter for Andrew. Now, interestingly, he said the same thing when it came to whether Andrew should be giving evidence just a few months ago, and then has changed his tune and said, actually, yes, he should, but he's still saying the apology is a matter for Andrew, which I think is interesting in terms of what has shifted and what has not shifted. And then he also said you can't be victim-centred if you're not prepared to share information that you might have. And to an extent, the PM trying to bring back the conversation to victims, which are often lost in this when you see all of these files being released and you see these videos of Epstein and these photos that are, you know, rather unedifying of political figures from years and years ago. So it feels quite clear that the government is trying to play a bit more of a proactive role when it comes to pushing Andrew into potentially giving evidence to the US. We still haven't heard from Andrew, of course, on this, and it's important to note he denies any wrongdoing in relation to Jeffrey Epstein or these files, but nonetheless, the pressure is mounting.
All right, Christoph, thank you.
Let's talk small boats now, specifically people who advertise illegal routes into the UK on social media, and they face now up to 5 years in prison under new laws that come into effect from today.
Oliver's here to tell us what are the details of this new announcement.
So the government wants to be seen to be acting tough when it comes to illegal immigration. Of course, it was one of the pledges to smash the people smuggling gangs when Labour came into power. Basically, the way that'll work is the National Crime Agency, which is Britain's version of the FBI, will scour social media to see if it can find any of this content where people are advertising illegal crossings across the English Channel from the northern beaches in France. It says last year it found 10,000 posts, 10,000 accounts that it managed to take down. But the big question is, how would this work in practice? Because it's unlikely that the NCA is going to apply for 10,000 international extradition orders. A lot of the videos that we see, a lot of this content comes from abroad. It comes from the people smugglers inside the camps in northern France. It comes from further afield. You know, some of the videos are aimed at people in Afghanistan, Pakistan, in their local languages. Some of them are based in Albania. So is the government really then going to be extraditing those people to come to the UK, or is there really a huge gang of people in the United Kingdom who are advertising these routes?
Well, I thought what is striking to me, Oliver, hearing you break down is how brazen it is already, that there are thousands of people advertising to do something illegal and that we haven't stopped it yet.
Yeah, and, you know, a lot of the time you and I wouldn't see it because of the way that the algorithms work, especially on TikTok, very personalised what you want. But when you start digging down into it, some of these videos are really quite slickly produced. They make huge promises about how they can get you to the United Kingdom, like a money-back guarantee almost, that they'll keep on trying to get you here. But the government has made extreme promises when it comes to trying to stop the people smugglers. And this is the latest in the sort of
smash the gangs
rhetoric that they've got. You know, they've tried pulling different levers, working with European partners to stop the boats being sold in the likes of Germany and France, working with China to try and stop the selling of engines, because a lot of the engines that are used on these so-called small boats come from China. But the numbers remain stubbornly high. You know, 65,000 people have made those crossings since Labour came into power. And so I think for a lot of the critics of the government, they'll be saying, it's all well and good coming up with these things, but we need to start seeing results in terms of the numbers coming down.
Oliver, thank you very much indeed. Oliver there talking about the extraordinary industry in advertisement on the internet there.
Now, a former moderator at TikTok has told Sky News about a culture of bullying, harassment and union busting within the company.
So this is someone called Linda. They're speaking out for the first time against TikTok because she and 4 of her former colleagues are preparing to launch legal action against one of the biggest social media companies in the world. Our science and technology reporter Mickey Carroll spoke to Linda about her experience.
I was finding it really hard to sleep at night time, having flashbacks, you know, feeling tired.
She's been silent until now. For the first time, this former TikTok moderator is speaking out to reveal what she says is happening behind the doors of one of the world's biggest social media companies.
To know that, you know, we are protecting the platform from harmful content. That was very motivating, but from another side, we are also humans and we're not much prepared or there isn't much support around to deal with these things.
For years, TikTok has employed people in London and all over the world to sift through some of the darkest stuff on the internet to make sure it doesn't reach our feeds. But Linda and 4 others in her position are the latest UK employees to launch legal action against the company.
No risk, no bites, no trust and safety counts all the time.
They say that despite the mental distress they were putting themselves through for the company, when they joined their union, TikTok turned against them.
Lots of bullying, harassment, exclusion from the team, from projects. There's a lot of things were going on. My performance, for example, moved from being top performer in January to June. So I scored EEE, which is exceeding expectations in all areas, to I, which is the lowest in the company.
Colleagues in another department were also accusing TikTok of union busting at the time. Hundreds of redundancies were announced just 1 week before they were due to vote on union recognition. TikTok has repeatedly said it wasn't union busting at all, but was simply following a global plan to change the way it moderates content. Stella is helping to represent the workers in the legal case against TikTok.
This case specifically, we want compensation for the workers. They have been unlawfully dismissed because they were engaging with union activities. We want to kind of make this a precedent because we've seen a lot of this happening across the world.
Content moderation is widely documented as being distressing, but Linda says TikTok didn't take the mental health of moderators seriously.
You are monitored by AI all day long. Even if you see something which really affects you and you feel like you have tears in your ears, sometimes you cry, but then you carry on working because you have to reach those targets. Otherwise, your bonus will be affected, your job security, your salary, everything will be affected.
TikTok told us that it strongly rejects these baseless and inaccurate claims. We've made ongoing enhancements to our safety technologies and content moderation, which are borne out by the facts. A record rate of violative content removed by automated technology, at 91%, and a record volume of violative content removed in under 24 hours, at 95%. according to its latest transparency report, TikTok removes more than 99% of harmful content before it's reported. According to data gathered for the EU's Digital Services Act, it also has the lowest error rates and highest accuracy rates in moderation among all the major social media platforms. But TikTok has already faced a lot of scrutiny over its attitude to online safety. These latest accusations may only add fuel to that fire.
Mickey's here with us now. Mickey, a great report in there. And I mean, TikTok isn't the biggest overall, but it's disproportionately big amongst younger people. How do they stack up, this sort of behaviour versus the other social media companies?
I mean, like you say, they kind of punch above their weight in terms of the other social platforms. Meta's huge, for example, but much more popular among older populations. TikTok's disproportionately popular with young people. And that's, I think, where it's really important, because they've got a really good reputation as well for moderating. And it sort of flies in the face of what we just heard. But they've got some of the lowest error rates for moderating. They're really proactive at taking down violative content before it's even reported to them. But that's why stories like this are really important, because these kind of relationships between moderators and their workforces, those aren't just about the workplace relationships, that's also about online safety. I mean, these moderators are the front line when it comes to people's feeds, especially on TikTok, for example. So a vast majority of the stuff that's posted to TikTok is fine. It's dances, it's recipes, it's outfits of the day. But there's a small percentage that is incredibly dark, and these people are watching that all day, every day. So we're talking about sexual abuse, violent extremism, death. That's their kind of day-to-day work. So when those relationships break down and those workers feel stressed or pressurised, like Linda just told me, that's when they start to make mistakes, potentially, and that's when Linda got worried that this wasn't just about worker safety, it's also about user safety. But TikTok does have this kind of good reputation to maintain, and that's more important than ever for them because they're facing multiple lawsuits. So not just from internal workers, that's now 2 UK lawsuits that they're facing, that we've reported on. They're also facing major lawsuits in the US. The 5 bereaved parents that we spoke to a couple of weeks ago, they're suing TikTok at the moment over the kind of content that they think their children watched online. There's also major lawsuits happening from people that are based in the US as well. So those kind of content moderation kind of facts that we've just talked about, they will become ever increasingly important for companies like TikTok to maintain.
Mickey, Christoph, thanks so much.
We're talking an awful lot about Lord Mandelson this morning. Resigned, of course, last night from the Labour Party. So an awful lot of questions around what the Labour Party knew and when. Should he have been appointed as US ambassador in the first place? Keir Starmer back from China, and I'm sure it's going to be one of the things he's going to be trying to get a grip on today as well. We're joined now, I'm pleased to say, from the government by the Minister for Early Education, Olivia Bailey, who's here with us. Great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
I did actually want to start with breakfast clubs, because I kind of feel that this is one of these really important domestic policies that in the kind of big geopolitical kind of move can get squeezed, but it is a big deal. It's a big deal for parents. If you just tell us what's happening.
Yeah, it is a big deal. We're announcing today that 500 more schools will be joining our Free Breakfast Club programme from April, on top of the 750 schools that were already delivering them last year, between them delivering more than 7 million breakfasts. And, you know, I've seen firsthand the wonderful impact these breakfast clubs are having. Parents who are saving money, making that start of the day a little bit less stressful. Anybody with children knows how stressful it can be. But also for the children, you know, a wonderful soft start to the day, time with their friends, a healthy breakfast, and we know that this is all having brilliant impacts on attainment, on attendance and behaviour. And so I'm really proud that we've got these new breakfast clubs joining us, and that we will be pushing towards every single primary school in England having a free breakfast club by the end of the Parliament.
I just want to talk about Lord Mandelson now, if I may, because it is this most extraordinary story that's been developing, obviously. And I guess I just was wondering, you know, what went through your mind when you saw that photograph of Lord Mandelson, you know, in his underpants with a woman in a dressing gown?
I mean, nothing about the documents that we've seen over the weekend has been comfortable, because I just think about the victims of Jeffrey Epstein's horrendous crimes, women who were raped and abused, children who were abused, and our first thought, all of our first thought has to be with the victims. And I just want to say, again, as the Prime Minister has said, that anybody with any information or evidence that could help find justice for those victims must come forward and share it.
Now, I should say, you know, Lord Mandelson has no recollection of that picture being taken. He denies wrongdoing. He's also questioned the authenticity of these payments that appear to have been made from Epstein to Mandelson, tens of thousands of pounds. And I guess, there are questions about how the Labour Party's handled this. Lord Mandelson said he did flag up his links with Epstein before he was made US ambassador. I mean, that's got to have been a mistake appointing him to that role.
No, I mean, categorically, the information that we now have from the documents this weekend, the documents in the autumn, was not available to the Prime Minister before that decision was taken to appoint Peter Mandelson. And as soon as the information did become clear, rightly, the Prime Minister took swift action to remove Peter Mandelson as US ambassador. And I'm glad that Peter Mandelson is no longer a member of the Labour Party.
I mean, look, we know, you're right, of course, that we didn't know all this information. This is new information that's come out on Friday. But we did know that he was still in contact with Jeffrey Epstein after his conviction, right? We knew that. That's enough, isn't it?
We did not know about the extent and nature of Peter Mandelson's ongoing relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
But I guess my point is we knew enough, didn't we? Surely.
We did. Well, as soon as the information became clear in the autumn, the Prime Minister took swift and decisive action. And I think that was the right action, and I'm glad that Peter Mandelson is no longer a member of the Labour Party.
Would you like to see him go to the States and give evidence?
As I've said, anybody with any information that could help secure justice for the victims should think very, very hard about that, should do that, because the victims and their experiences must be our first priority.
There's one other domestic story that I wanted to ask you about today, which is about small boats. I know this is a big deal for the government. You're trying to bring the kind of crossings down. And today there's this news story that you're talking about where I guess the middleman, the kind of people kind of touting these routes, if you like, are going to be tried to track down and prosecuted on social media. What's happening there?
Look, it's really important that we do absolutely everything we can to dismantle the network of the gangs that are exploiting people across the Channel and causing people to risk their lives and sometimes die. I think we've done this really good deal with China to tackle the supply of engines, and we are systematically trying to dismantle the chain of the gangs to make sure that they can't get those boats into the sea in the first place.
And then, we talked about breakfast clubs with your kind of education hat on, with your kind of equality hat on, which I know is part of your brief as well. I just wondered if I could ask you what's going on when it comes to single-sex spaces. Because last year, of course, the Supreme Court ruled that being a woman was defined by biological sex, which has all kinds of implications for everything from changing rooms and toilets to domestic abuse centres. We're still waiting for the government's guidance on single-sex spaces. When is that coming?
Yeah, so as you say, the Supreme Court ruled that for the purposes of the Equality Act, biological sex was paramount. The government's accepted that and has also always accepted and supported the provision of single-sex spaces. So the independent EHRC has been working on its code of conduct to accompany that judgment. That has been submitted to ministers. We are considering it very carefully, as you would want us to do, because it's really important that any single-sex spaces in the future don't have any legal jeopardy. So we're considering that carefully and closely, and as soon as any decision has been taken, it will be laid before the House of Commons.
You can understand why people are starting to wonder why it's been so long. Because, the ECHR submitted the new code of practice in September. In October, they told you to kind of get a move on, to kind of speed things up. It is now February. I mean, what's happening?
It's a really complex issue, as you'll know, and it's right that we do take our time to get it right.
What are the specific complexities that mean it's taking a long time?
There are many legal considerations that we need to consider. We are engaging with the EHRC on it, but as I say, they're an independent regulator. We will make the decision as soon as we can to put this before Parliament.
Are trans women?
So we are clear that the Supreme Court ruled that for the purposes of the Equality Act, biological sex was paramount. There is still the right enshrined in law to change your gender through the Gender Recognition Act. So trans women are trans women, and for the purposes of the Equality Act, women means biological sex.
So trans women then? Number 10 say no.
Trans women are women. Trans women are trans women, and for the purposes of the Equality Act, woman means biological sex.
OK, great to have you on the programme today, Olivia Bailey. Thank you very much indeed.
When we come back, we'll be joined by the head of Robin Hood UK, Jordan Sinclair, to discuss the government's attempts to get more people focused on investing.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
We've done the work and the reading, so you don't have to.
Being a Sky News presenter.
Hello and welcome. Westminster, the heart of British politics. I'm so sorry about what happened to you. So what on earth is going on?
It's not true.
Can I tell you what I think? It's really unusual. Mornings with Roger and Frost. Let's crack on. Let's get started.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
Who's funnier?
Being a Sky News journalist.
A special edition of The World with me, Yalda Hakim.
Pakistan had the right to respond.
You're like, what?
Historic day here today. Congratulations, this is a huge moment. But what happens now?
Welcome back. Well, in the Chancellor's recent budget, there are a number of changes, for example, to ISAs, to try and encourage more long-term savings and investment in the UK. Let's talk about all of that with the President of Robin Hood UK, Jordan Sinclair, who's here. Very good morning to you, Jordan. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Obviously, Robin Hood is a US company initially. You're expanding here. Is it fair to say there is much greater engagement with long-term savings and investment in the US than in the UK? And do you have any observations as to why there's that difference?
I think in the US there is a kind of stronger culture in investing. I think the UK is catching up very quickly. I think some of the reasons for that is removing barriers. For a long time here, it kind of had to be, the perception was you have to be wealthy to invest, or you need to have a certain amount of money to invest. But now, actually, you literally just need £1 to get started, and your stocks and shares ISA actually should be free, and you should be able to get started and build your wealth much the same as our US kind of customers and colleagues think about investing as well, rather than it being something scary, something they can actually just get started and reach their milestones.
What do you make of the changes since this government's come in, whether it's specifically the most recent budget or in general in this regard?
I think there's been lots of changes, and I think sometimes we can be at risk of scorecarding one at a time and saying, is this going to move the needle? But I think if you add them all up, listing reforms, simplification of ISAs, working together with industry and the FCA on risk warnings to help customers understand investing a lot more. I think when you add those up and you fast forward probably in 5 years, I think we're going to look back and see there was actually real meaningful change, and we're going to see that in how customers are building their wealth.
Clearly there's always a risk when you invest, and capital's at risk. Long-term, people can make arguments that it's worth your while, but particularly at this moment in time, when stocks are near record highs, do people have to be extra careful?
I think customers should always think about their own personal circumstances. I think it's quite well documented the amount of cash that's sitting on the sidelines in the UK. I think that's the change that is definitely something that can accelerate, where those who can accept that risk and can kind of diversify their portfolio to think about, what do I want to achieve in 5, 10 years? How can investing get me there? Versus cash, where over the same time inflation will most likely erode my same gains.
In terms of most recently, we've covered this briefly on this show, this start of the year, but gold prices have done incredibly well, whether you talk about this month, last month or last year. They've all of a sudden kind of corrected somewhat. Stepping back, is that to you warning people that there are major risks out there in the financial system if gold, this traditional safe haven, has appreciated so much?
I think time in market always supersedes timing the market. So I think what we always encourage our customers to look at their portfolio over a long time. I think what's important is you take this moment in time, and maybe 5 years ago, if you were in Mayfair, you had access to certain information and certain tools, and if you were in Manchester, maybe you didn't. You were locked out and you had to pay a fee to access an account and see those live prices. Now you've got tools that help the customers invest the same as any institution. I think levelling that playing field makes investing that much more kind of accessible. I think that's a big barrier that's being removed very quickly.
And just finally, what is the outlook you guys have on the UK economy as a whole? There's been a lot of questions as to, whether growth is stagnating over the last decade. What's the outlook?
I mean, for us, positive. We chose the UK very purposefully as our first market outside of the US. We have 27 million customers in the US and chose the UK. It's a wonderful place to do business, I think, as a financial centre of the world. I think all of these kind of initiatives are making the UK more and more competitive. I think thinking about how we build for the long term now and working at pace to be globally competitive, That's important. Take the action now. I think we'll see the benefits in years to come.
Jordan Sinclair, President of Robin Hood UK, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Good to see you.
To Gaza now, because Israel has confirmed the Rafah crossing, so the crossing between Gaza and Egypt has officially opened.
The border has been closed for almost 2 years. It used to be run by the Egyptians, but the Israelis seized control in May of 2024 and continued to occupy the area. Authorities are calling this opening a pilot run with the hope of letting people across the border soon. Our Middle East correspondent Adam Parsons has more.
The Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt has been reopened, but so far nobody's crossed. So what's going on? Firstly, the crossing is a crucial link. It's one of only 2 crossings where people can exit and enter the Gaza Strip. The other one connects Gaza with Israel, and very, very few people get to go through that. The Rafah crossing has been closed since May 2024. But after plenty of negotiation and speculation, it's now going to reopen as part of the US-led peace plan. But, and there is so often a but, nobody has crossed on this, the first day. We're told that's because checks are being carried out on all the systems, but it's a sign of just how complex and difficult this is going to be. For a start, Israel is imposing huge limitation. Those leaving Gaza will include people who have urgent medical needs. They'll be allowed to have 2 companions with them, up to a maximum of 150 people crossing out of Gaza each day. Coming in the other direction, Israel is expected to allow just 50 people to enter Gaza out of the 42,000 who have fled during the war. Each person crossing in either direction will undergo strict security screening carried out by Israel. There'll be facial recognition checks on the people going into Egypt, while those coming into Gaza will have to go through an extra Israeli checkpoint. So we expect up to 200 people to cross each day, and that's it. So far, no trucks are going to be allowed to go through the Rafah crossing, even though lines of lorries are queuing up there now in the hope of a change of heart. And foreign journalists will also still be banned from entering Gaza, just as they have been throughout the war.
Adam Parsons there, such a crucial thing, of course, for people in the region there who need medical attention in Egypt, but also some Palestinians, of course, who want to return home as well.
More from the region later on in the programme, covering Iran as well. Now, it's been a great night for Brits at the Grammys, one of the biggest nights in music, of course.
So they were on early this morning in LA with Olivia Dean and Lola Young, both picking up some awards.
And it was also a deeply political evening, as our arts and entertainment correspondent Katie Spencer now reports.
I'm going to say, eyes out.
It was a night of anger seeping from the Grammys stage. Puerto Rican superstar Bad Bunny impassioned about the immigration operation in Minnesota. One of Britain's best, Olivia Dean, also using her very first Grammy win to speak out.
I guess I want to say I'm up here as a granddaughter of an immigrant. I wouldn't be here. Yeah, I'm a product of bravery, and I think those people deserve to be celebrated.
In the audience, a slightly more subtle stand taken. Ice Out badges worn by the likes of Hailey and Justin Bieber, who also delivered one of the night's stranger moments, inexplicably stripping down to his pants to perform. The late Ozzy Osbourne was celebrated in a tribute led by Post Malone, watched on by the rocker's wife Sharon and their children. In taking home Best Pop, Lola Young ensured there was another big British win, while history was made with Golden, the first ever K-pop song to win a Grammy.
Oh, the Grammy goes to Luther Vandross!
No thanks to Cher confusing his song with his name, Kendrick Lamar became the most awarded hip-hop artist in Grammy's history.
Kendrick Lamar!
While Bad Bunny seemed stunned to take home the big one, Album of the Year, the first ever Spanish-language album to do so. But really this felt less a night about songs, more speeches.
As grateful as I feel, I honestly don't feel like I need to say anything, but that no one is illegal on stolen land.
the volume of anger about America's current stance on immigration, drowning out any celebrations. Katie Spencer, Sky News.
And they're often political, these events, aren't they? But I think this year in particular, with the depth of feeling about the immigration policies and the ICE agents, of course, really coming to the fore there.
Absolutely. But congrats as well, though, on the victories, particularly for the Brits.
Yeah.
Enjoy the moment, richly deserved. We're going to have a quick look at the weather now.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors Sky News weather.
There's more rain to come this week, and that means a risk of flooding where the ground is already very saturated. It will be a chilly start this morning for much of Ireland, Northern Ireland and western parts of Britain, with a risk of icy patches and freezing fog. Further east, it's grey and damp again. A brisk easterly wind will feed in further showers and hail snow to eastern Scotland and northeast England today, while central parts of Britain remain cloudy with patchy rain and drizzle. There'll be some brighter skies further west, but cloud will build as weather fronts do approach.
All Clear Travel Insurance proudly sponsors Sky News weather.
Well, coming up, we are all going to be talking, including Jackie, with a women's football author about Arsenal's historic victory last night. Jackie?
Yeah, Champions Cup. Corinthians were the opponents from Sao Paulo in Brazil. Arsenal, who are the champions of Europe, playing each other in the absolute pouring rain.
And we're going to be discussing that very important match yesterday after this short break.
Mr. Trump, James Matthews from Sky News.
Hey, James.
I'm James Matthews, and I'm Sky's US correspondent, based here in Washington, D.C.
Mr. President, what will you see next to Benjamin Netanyahu?
In June 2009, did you stay at the apartment in Manhattan of Jeffrey Epstein?
I'm not answering any questions about him.
I'm Martha Kellner and I'm Sky's US correspondent. I've interviewed some of America's most recognisable politicians. Should the Defence Secretary and the Vice...
Wait, what country are you
from? The UK.
Okay, we don't give a crap about your opinion and your reporting.
Mr Walker, you're anti-abortion, but 2 women say that you paid for their abortions. Are you a hypocrite, sir?
Connor, what did you say to the president? What did you say?
We had a great meeting. He was a great man.
I'm David Blevins, one of Sky's US correspondents, based in Washington, D.C. David Blevins from Sky News. Fire chiefs say that they're really stretched to the limit and running out of water. What have you got to say to that?
I've witnessed the remarkable passion for politics here.
Why only in America? Why is this American exceptionalism? I just want to understand why you do not think that guns are the problem.
Why is this just an American problem?
The anger too, and the division.
Where are you from? From Sky News, UK.
Yeah.
Back up.
Mr Navarro, can you
I'm allowed to ask questions, aren't I?
I'm Mark Stone and I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Washington, D.C.
Vladimir Putin calls you outstanding, Mr. Musk. Has your ego and ignorance cost Ukrainian lives?
David Cameron needs to worry about his own country, and frankly, he can kiss my ass.
Mr. Patel, did you endanger public safety when you said the killer was in custody?
Free wherever you get your news.
What words do you have for Harry Dunn's family today?
Have a nice day.
Do you fear a fourth indictment?
There's a fresh look to your news from 10 on Sky News. It's a new show called The Wrap, every night of the week. We'll still bring you the day's biggest stories, but with more lively debate, more in-depth commentary, and more of what you need to know. Plus a look at what's making tomorrow's headlines. The Wrap. Everything wrapped up for you from 10 on Sky News.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
They call him the king of the jungle.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Yusra Al-Baghir has this report.
And this is what's left of it.
As a woman of colour, how did the Harris campaign speak to you?
People risk their lives to speak to us for this report.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
Arsenal women made history last night by securing victory in the final of the first ever FIFA Women's Champions Cup. Well, they beat the Brazilian champions Corinthians 3-2 at the Emirates after an extra-time winner from Caitlin Foord. However, the tournament has come under scrutiny due to concerns surrounding the schedule and the structure of the competition. And joining us now is Carrie Dunn, sports writer and author. And Carrie, I suppose the main argument is this has come slap bang in the middle of the season and everyone's expected to drop what they're doing and just take part in this tournament. Is that the main argument here?
Yeah, well, I think for Arsenal, certainly it is obviously slap bang in the middle of the season. They had a WSL fixture scheduled this weekend against Leicester and that's been postponed. But of course, Gotham, for example, they're not in season. They're in their pre-season, so then haven't been match ready. So we saw a few players slightly disgruntled after their semi-final, that they hadn't had the same kind of match sharpness, perhaps, as Arsenal have got. And of course, Arsenal now go straight back into domestic action. They've got Manchester City, of all tasks, next weekend, the table toppers in the WSL. They've then got Champions League and another WSL match, and then back into the Women's FA Cup. So it's pretty tight scheduling there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Was it a case of FIFA thought, oh, quickly, we better organise an event for the women because we've had this Club World Championship that we've made a huge fuss about. We need to make something that's sort of equivalent. Was it a case of we just need to do something for the women?
I think they've been really keen to try and do something for women on club level for a while. Obviously, we've got the Women's Club World Cup is supposed to be starting soon and it's going to be in rotation with the Women's Champions Cup. But yeah, I guess the schedule is so tight and everyone's schedules around the world are so different. It's always going to be quite tricky to find somewhere that actually fits. But of course, the other big query that was raised was having it in London and Arsenal getting to play the final at their home stadium. Is that slightly unfair advantage?
Well, it is an unfair advantage, isn't it? But you have to say Arsenal are very good at packing the Emirates when their women's team plays. So to give everyone a really, extraordinary experience, I suppose that would be the place. I don't know the kind of crowds that the Corinthians women's team get, but Arsenal do get very good crowds. They've got a great following.
They absolutely do. And I think that's probably part of the reasoning that FIFA chose London as a venue. And of course, the semi-finals weren't played at the Emirates. They were played at Brentford in midweek. So it wasn't all at Arsenal's home ground.
Yeah, and Arsenal are struggling, aren't they, this year in the WSL? They're not going to win it. Do you think this is just a perfect tonic? It's, silverware is great to get as you try and finish the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yes, I think probably the WSL is a little bit far away from them now with Manchester City so far in front. I think they're 11 points ahead of second place Manchester United now. But they're still in the FA Cup. They're still in the Women's Champions League, the title they won last year. And so they're really good at actually winning those trophy matches under pressure. Nobody thought they would win the Champions League last season, for example. So maybe this is a good way to kick on and try and get some of those trophies in the trophy cabinet by the end of the season.
For Arsenal fans, let's hope so. Carrie Dunn, thank you so much for your thoughts this morning. Arsenal, Champions Cup winners last night. After extra time, in the pouring rain, filthy weather.
Jackie, we've got to talk about tennis as well, because it was extraordinary yesterday, wasn't it? This is Carlos Alcaraz, youngest ever man to complete a career Grand Slam, which means you win the 4 big ones, right?
Yeah.
And he beat Djokovic.
At 22. I mean, it's actually hard to believe he's still 22, because it feels like he's been around for ages. What I was kind of interested in that final yesterday was how tired would both men be? Because, Alcaraz had played 5.5 hours, short of 3 minutes, literally a couple of days before. And Djokovic had played 4 and something hours against Jannik Sinner, a foe that he perhaps never thought he would ever get the better of, and had nothing left to give. Stayed up till 6 in the morning doing recovery and media. So only had a day and a half to recover from that. And given that he's 38 as well, that's not easy. That is not an easy thing to go out and play your best tennis in the final. And I think that played a big part in how this match began. In fact, we can have a quick look at some of the key points of this match, first of all. So Djokovic, who's 39 in May, out of the blocks really quickly as he dominated the first set 6-2. And that is exactly what he wanted to do, keep it short. But Alcaraz, who never believes that he's ever beaten, he's going to be 23 in May, roared back to win the next 3 sets, 6-2, 6-3. It was more of a fight in that third set from Djokovic, who sort of lost a bit in his legs midway through and then got them back, 7-5 in that fourth set. So this is how Alcaraz wrapped things up, taking the record for the youngest men's career Grand Slam winner. He's over 18 months younger than Rafa Nadal was when he completed the feat. And Rafa was there, watching him, cheering him on.
Have we ever had a final with that spread of ages as well?
I'm
22
sure,
to
I am
38?
sure that we have, but you're going to ask me who it is now, I don't know.
We've had a 16-year age gap in a final before.
Yeah, I'm sure there's been even more than that.
Really?
Yeah, I think there has. But it's just what's happened here is you've got, you know, the big three, like Federer, Nadal, I suppose you could put Murray in the big four, and Djokovic. So you've had those who've dominated for such a long time. And then you had a raft of players coming through, like Zverev, who everyone thought they're going to take the mantle, the baton will carry on. But it didn't. So then it was like the next generation who've come through, who were very young, like Sinner and Alcaraz. And they're the ones who've challenged. And they're the ones who are now winning the slams. I mean, if you look at Alcaraz and Sinner, they have won all of the slams, you know. Sinner won the French, Alcaraz has just won this, he won the US Open, Sinner won Wimbledon, Alcaraz has won Wimbledon twice before playing Djokovic. I mean, they're going to dominate for years and years to come.
I mean, I love Alcaraz, right? I love him, as I know you do as well, Jackie. I love watching him.
Everything looks like a great laugh.
But yeah, exactly. He wears it lightly.
Yeah.
But there is something, I have to say, quite inspiring about Djokovic, who is, how old did you say he was, 38?
Yeah, 38.
And the amount of, I guess, you know, how hard he must have to train, how hard he must be with his diet just to keep up with these guys who are so much younger.
Yeah.
I mean, there is something quite extraordinary about it.
It is quite funny. It's like he's got a picture in the attic, because if you look at his face, never mind his body, it's not aged in 10 years at all. I mean, he sticks to a very, you know, strict juicing diet, you know, supplements. He does everything there is to do, hyperbaric oxygen, to recover, ice baths. He does everything possible to keep his body
Him
absolutely
and Cristiano
perfect
Ronaldo have got to be the two most, like, unbelievably focused sportsmen.
Yeah, they are quite similar in mentality. And also the fact you never know when he's beaten. You think he's down and out. Like, he looked down and out in that final. And yet somehow he revitalised in that final set.
The semi-final was unbelievable.
It was unbelievable.
You know, I can't believe it to still be at the very, very, very top.
I think it's the mentality of Djokovic. It's really hard to beat. I mean, no one has beaten it. And if you look at his statistics, if there was an argument about the greatest of all time, well, he wins it based on just the stats.
Oh, yeah, but Alcaraz, he's 104, he's only 22.
Do you know
well, right, we might get there. You might get there, but you can't argue yet.
In the speech afterwards, Djokovic was talking. I mean, he kind of hogged it a little bit.
Yeah, I thought that.
Did you think that?
But
I think he just thought, I'm going to give this speech in a final because I don't think I will ever get to a Grand Slam final again. And it sounded a bit like a retirement speech.
I thought it sounded like a retirement speech.
I'm not going to play in one of these again. So while I've got the microphone, I'm going to thank everybody and sort of throw it on.
For him.
He is.
Yeah,
no, he's very funny.
There was that lovely bit when he basically, I don't know if you didn't hear it, there's a great bit at the beginning of the Djokovic speech where he basically said how young Alcaraz is like me. I'm sure there's loads of times we'll play each other over the next 10 years. So obviously...
But meaning there's probably not a lot of times when we'll play each other over the next 10 years. So, yeah, it was a bit sad as well. But, he was fair. It was a very funny speech. Alcaraz was rubbish by comparison to Djokovic, but he's had a lot of practice.
Shall we talk a little bit about the Premier League?
Oh, yeah, shall we? I mean, the big winners... Happy deadline day, by the way.
Is it deadline day?
Yeah, I think so.
So is it closed already?
No, tonight.
Oh. Well, just
7.
Arsenal aren't in the market.
You've got time to buy someone. Yeah, I mean, my goodness, Arsenal were such winners yesterday without kicking a ball. I mean, it's extraordinary, the fact that they did the business against Leeds the day before. I mean, Manchester City against Spurs. Who would have predicted that it was 2-2? I mean, the fact that Man City looked like on a completely different level in the first half of that match. It's just like we are not matched here at all. Antoine Semenyo...
What a celebration.
You know, I think Pep might tell him off over that. I mean, it was a damp day in London. You could have slipped. You could have done anything doing a back somersault like that. Not sure. Anyway, he's been a great signing and has just sort of slotted in, hasn't he?
He's been brilliant.
But the second half, the fact that Spurs could come out and act like a completely different team, really take it to them, the fact that Manchester City was so awful in the second half, it was just extraordinary how Dominic Solanke, not that goal, but Dominic Solanke... got both the goals.
That was unbelievable.
I mean, that flick was just a moment of inspiration, wasn't it? It was just like, oh, I'll just quickly improvise, try this, see if it works. And it did work. And the fact that they walked away with a point, you know, at home, where they have been so dreadful this season, but then you'd take it, wouldn't you?
The saddest thing, though, for Spurs fans, though, is that what they've done by drawing with Man City is end up helping out their big rivals, Arsenal.
Yes, Arsenal were sitting there going, thank you very much.
Thanks, Spurs.
Also, Villa lost as well. We won't share that goal, but the fact that Villa lost at home to Brentford also helps the Arsenal.
It's like no one wants to win the Premier League.
It's like no one wants to win the
this last few weeks.
It felt like a bad result for Villa, particularly because Brentford had 10 men, right?
Well, they did. It was a really bad result. What did you think of Manchester United winning again in Fergie time? I mean,
this was
the script
incredible.
That's being written here is really fun, right? It's really extraordinary under Michael Carrick. 3 wins out of 3. The fact that it was Benjamin Šeško who'd had a chance and hit the bar earlier in the match and then managed to get that goal on 94 minutes. So Alex Ferguson was eating a sweet when they cut to him and he was laughing. And it was like properly Fergie time. They played like 12 minutes of extra time in that match. It was mad. Fulham was a good fight. Good fight later on. I think they thought they got the point. It was kind of sad for them.
I felt for Fulham. I have to say, I really felt for them.
But particularly relevant because, of course, Michael Carrick, new manager, sort of temporary manager, and if he keeps this up,
I know.
Could be
I mean, it's
match.
like a total switch around. And as one of the main football writers said in the papers, does it show that Amorim was just all talk? You know, does it show that he kind of didn't know what he was doing with these players? Because Michael Carrick is...
What's so interesting with a lot of these, I always find, is that you've got to keep the players, and I don't think it feels like it's not really fair on the manager if you get the sort of petulant players saying we don't want to play for them. But it's amazing how quickly the players can turn and give in, clearly, not just better tactics, but better effort.
But you had a player like Kobbie Mainoo, who was being, you know, it was part of the England squad, was being held as the next big thing, and is so extraordinarily talented and wasn't included in Amorim's teams because he didn't fit in with his system. I mean, that's just crazy.
It is crazy. Well.
But it was a really interesting weekend, and there are so many pundits thinking that it really is Arsenal's to lose now. You've got a 6-point lead over your nearest rivals, and if you can't see that home, you don't deserve to.
Jackie, are you a dry January fan?
Absolutely not. No, I have got 2 people in my family doing that. It's so dull. They are so dull.
Are they kept up with it?
Oh,
because you're going to like
this
next...
daughter has. She never cracks.
Jackie, I love this.
So I can't do it. I've tried a week.
I've never even tried.
I'm the same. January is not the time to give up.
But you don't do it in the summer either.
No, I don't. That's true. I don't do it at any month.
Any time.
No. But obviously it's a big thing. Lots of people doing dry January. But recent alcohol sales seems to suggest it was less of a dry January, more of a damp January this year.
Because major supermarket chains such as Waitrose have noted that customers have been buying more alcohol this January than they had in previous years. Wine sales in particular have increased by nearly 25% in comparison to last January. Maybe it's just stocking up for the 1st of February.
I didn't appreciate it, by the way, when one of our producers messaged us earlier being like, because the wine sales have gone up, Sophy is this year. I was like,
There are some fun memes on Instagram with people like pouring their wine down the sink as if they were giving up.
And then
they pull out massive glasses of wine.
It's quite good. It's been quite a hard January, though. You know, the weather, there's been a lot of rain, it's been cold. I think we shouldn't beat ourselves up too much. This is not health advice, by the way. Dry January is a very good thing, and obviously don't drink to excess, etc., etc.
I was about to also say stick to it if you're still doing it, but of course it's February now, so don't have to stick to it anymore.
It's all done. It's all done.
No matter what.
And if you did, well done. I mean, hats off.
I agree. Well done. I don't think I've ever tried, so I don't think I've failed either.
Yeah, the best way of doing it.
Yeah, I'm not saying I could do it, and nor am I going to offer this up as a... Maybe people should do February. It's a bit shorter.
I think February is a better month to do.
No, it's also pretty
No, you're also into the swing of things. Because I think January, people have got no money because they've spent all their money on Christmas and Christmas presents and they've really indulged at Christmas. So it's a good time to do it because you think, oh, let's just take a break here, stop eating and drinking and just, you know, get rid of those pounds that I've piled on by stuffing my face over Christmas. And then by February, you're like, enough already. Let's just have a glass of wine.
Exactly. I love it.
Plus one in January.
Well, like I said, I lasted a week.
Yeah,
I didn't even try. I knew I wouldn't do it.
Great stuff. Thanks, Jackie, for the sport and the
wine
dry
advice.
jam.
Okay.
Coming up, of course, after this break, we are going to be talking an awful lot more about Lord Mandelson, the government's reaction. Keir Starmer back from China. He's walking back into another domestic issue.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
I'm going to take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live. They have gone up and up.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Ed Conway, Sky News, is anyone going to talk to us? Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office. Here it is.
First off, just the scale of what we're looking at.
Our data shows it's been happening. Question is why it hasn't been stopped.
Good morning, it is 8 o'clock and welcome to Mornings with Ridge and Frost.
With Sophie and Wilfred, a very good morning from me as well. Lots to get to.
Lord Peter Mandelson quit the Labour Party to avoid further embarrassment, he says, over his links to Jeffrey Epstein.
A crackdown on people smuggling, up to 5 years in prison for social media users who advertise illegal routes to the UK.
A former TikTok employee tells Sky News of claims of a culture of bullying, harassment and union busting in the company.
The boss of the UK's leading tech company says the UK is too risk-averse and lacks the hunger to succeed.
And the British singer Olivia Dean is among the big winners at a very political Grammy Awards.
Very good morning to you. Lord Mandelson has quit the Labour Party to avoid causing it, he says, further embarrassment after the latest release of the Epstein files.
So we had another huge release of thousands of email exchanges, videos, images. It all happened on Friday. At Sky News, we're still going through it. And look, they really do reveal the close connections that Jeffrey Epstein had to the rich and powerful. We've got to say, of course, appearing in the files is no evidence of wrongdoing in itself.
But some of the material is quite something. Like this, a picture appearing to show former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor on all fours over an unidentified young woman.
And also this one. So this image appears to show Peter Mandelson in his underwear and a T-shirt. He's standing next to a woman who's wearing a dressing gown. We don't know who took the photo, when it was taken, where it was taken, but Lord Mandelson was sacked as US ambassador last year because of his links to Epstein. And now the documents Sky News has analysed also suggest that Epstein paid Lord Mandelson $75,000 in the early 2000s. And these revelations have led to his decision to step down from the Labour Party.
Well, in a statement, Lord Mandelson has said, I've been further linked this weekend to the understandable furore surrounding Jeffrey Epstein, and I feel regretful and sorry about this, allegations which I believe to be false, that he made financial payments to me 20 years ago, and of which I have no record or recollection, need investigating by me.
He goes on to say, while doing this, I do not wish to cause further embarrassment to the Labour Party, and I am therefore stepping down from membership of the party.
Well, we'll bring in Mari in just a moment to reflect a little bit more on this, but first we want to remind you of the figure at the centre of it all. Here's a chilling clip of Epstein in a sit-down interview. The interviewer does not appear on camera, but it's believed to be Steve Bannon, who served in the White House for part of Trump's first presidential term as his chief strategist. The circumstances around the interview are unclear, but here is Epstein being quizzed about whether his money was dirty money and whether he views himself as the devil.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
No, but I do have a good mirror.
It's a serious question.
Do
you think you're the devil himself?
I don't know. Why would you say that?
Because you have all the attributes. You're incredibly smart. You remember, the devil is somebody knows
smart?
The devil's brilliant. You read Milton's Paradise Lost.
No, the devil scares me.
It's quite something to see him in that interview, isn't it? Mari is here. Look, what's your reflections on Lord Mandelson? It was inevitable, wasn't it, that he was going to have to resign, but I guess that's not going to completely stop the pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's now going to be a kind of dissection of how we got here, what we knew, what we didn't know, what the Prime Minister knew and didn't know, and there is already clamourings coming from opposition parties like the Conservatives who are trying to claim that Keir Starmer didn't have the backbone to kick Lord Mandelson out of the Labour Party himself, but allowed him to resign instead. Now, of course, we don't know the kind of conversations that went on behind closed doors to get to that point, but what they are arguing is, in terms of the symbolism of allowing somebody to step back rather than you taking the action to boot them out, there is a difference. And what Kemi Badenoch is arguing is that there is a difference, there is a distinction between those two things. Now, you were speaking to the Government Minister, Olivia Bailey, earlier today, and you were trying to ask her, to an extent, what the government knew and really whether what they knew should have been enough in the first place, perhaps, to decide to expel him from the party in the first place, and we can see her answer now.
The information that we now have from the documents this weekend, the documents in the autumn, was not available to the Prime Minister before that decision was taken to appoint Peter Mandelson. And as soon as the information did become clear, rightly, the Prime Minister took swift action to remove Peter Mandelson as US Ambassador. And I'm glad that Peter Mandelson is no longer a member of the Labour Party.
I guess, Mari, what I was trying to get at there is, obviously, it is correct that they didn't have all the information. It's coming out every Friday. It's coming out this Friday, right? But they did know a lot back then, didn't they? They did know quite a bit.
Exactly. The additional thing on this is, if it warranted him to no longer be ambassador, then why don't you do everything at once? I mean, there's a sort of short-sighted political execution to this as well, you know. And I guess he's still a member of the House of Lords.
So for now,
unaffiliated.
He is still a member of the House of Lords. There's reporting that perhaps he's going to resign that position, but so far that hasn't happened. There's also talk about, you know, the fact that there is there was a relatively good friendship between Morgan McSweeney and Peter Mandelson, and whether that has played any sort of a part in the slowness into the kind of getting rid of Mandelson, as it were. I think what was also really clear in that interview with Olivia Bailey, she, to me, felt very uncomfortable when she was answering
I'll be honest,
questions.
I felt it. I felt it when I was sitting there opposite her as well.
It was, she felt she was kind of wriggling in her seat. She was so uncomfortable to be talking about it and to be asked about it. And I think clearly she was inside wanting to say more, but was obviously unable to. And I think it really came through.
I think that's right. And also Lord Mandelson is basically saying, I don't remember the picture being taken. I'm disputing whether this money is correct. I don't remember it either. It's kind of hard when someone is not really taking full responsibility for what they did or didn't do.
Yeah, and also the only apology he's still issued, even the apology that came out last night, was the apology to the women and girls for not being believed by the authorities, but no really apology so far at all about his own behaviour in any way, shape or form.
All right, great stuff. Thanks so much. Now, let's talk small boats. People who advertise illegal routes into the UK on social media face up to 5 years in prison under new laws which come into effect today. Let's bring in Oliver, who's got more details on this for us. What's the latest announcement, Oliver?
So the government wants to be seen as acting to fund immigration. The Border Security Minister, Alex Norris, has got a message for the people smugglers and the government is coming after them. Now, what's changed is that the government no longer has to prove that these posts online have actually led to crossings. The mere fact that somebody publishes an advertisement online saying that they can get you from the northern beaches of France over the English Channel is enough for the government or for the authorities to go after these people smugglers. What's interesting is how they'll go about doing that. So Britain's version of the FBI, the National Crime Agency, will be scouring social media sites to find these sort of adverts. Last year, they took down 10,000 accounts, posts and groups that had advertised these routes over the English Channel on what's called small boats, but in actual fact, the dinghies are quite large.
It's extraordinary. I have to say, I'm actually quite shocked that this is kind of happening anyway, and that, you know, it's so kind of blatant. You've looked at some of them as well, right? And you were saying how they're quite, like, well-produced.
Yeah, a lot of the time they're done to music, they're quite slickly made, they're, you know, they're advertising how they're going to get you across, either using a lorry or getting on the boat. They've got prices, they've got numbers that you can contact people on WhatsApp. And those numbers work, because I've previously messaged some of the people. I mean, after a while, they do realise that I'm a British journalist and then they completely stop communication. But these are ways that people have been getting in touch with some of those people smugglers.
It's kind of like, without being ridiculous about it, it's almost like we're going to say, oh, let's send the Advertising Standards Agency after these people for making a promise that they don't deliver on. I think the key thing will be, does this get any results? You know, and there's in this, because Alex Norris was on with us last week, right, talking about something in this regard. They've trumpeted "smash the gangs" lots of times. Sometimes you pause and wonder, wait until the numbers have halved and then seek kind of the next level of press for what you're doing in this area.
Yeah, and that's the problem, isn't it? Because how many of these accounts are really going to be advertising from the UK? And then it becomes a question of jurisdiction, because is the government really going to be applying for extradition agreements to bring back 10,000 people who are abroad who are making these promises and these advertisements about people smuggling across the channel? And that is the sort of, is it really going to have that much of an impact compared to the government's broader goals of working with European partners, working with the likes of the Chinese to stop these boats? And you've got to look at the track record of Labour. They have promised to smash the gangs. That was what they partially came into government on, that promise, that manifesto pledge. But still, since they came into power, there's been 65,000 people that have made those journeys. And last year, the number was almost a record. It was the second highest on total.
I even think, you know, working with the Chinese to stop the boat. I mean, China couldn't be further away. Again, is there much to trumpet on that? Maybe there is, once it's delivered results. But it was one of the big announcements from a trip to China, and it just seems quite far, literally, geographically, far removed. But we shall see. The numbers are slightly better in January. The proof will be in the summer months. Oliver, great stuff.
Now, a former moderator at TikTok has told Sky News about a culture of bullying, harassment and union busting within the company.
For the first time, Linda Azor is speaking out against TikTok as she and 4 of her former colleagues prepared to launch legal action against one of the biggest social media companies in the world. Well, our science and technology reporter, Mickey Carroll, has more.
I was finding it really hard to sleep at night time, having flashbacks, you know, feeling tired.
She's been silent until now. For the first time, this former TikTok moderator is speaking out to reveal what she says is happening behind the doors of one of the world's biggest social media companies.
To know that, you know, we are protecting the platform from harmful content. That was very motivating, but from another side, we are also humans and we're not much prepared or there isn't much support around to deal with these things.
For years, TikTok has employed people in London and all over the world to sift through some of the darkest stuff on the internet to make sure it doesn't reach our feeds. But Linda and 4 others in her position are the latest UK employees to launch legal action against the company.
No ifs, no buts, no trust and safety counts all the time.
They say that despite the mental distress they were putting themselves through for the company, when they joined their union, TikTok turned against them.
Lots of bullying, harassment, exclusion from the team, from projects. There's a lot of things were going on. My performance, for example, moved from being top performer in January to June. So I scored triple E, which is exceeding expectations in all areas, to I, which is the lowest in the company.
Colleagues in another department were also accusing TikTok of union busting at the time. Hundreds of redundancies were announced just 1 week before they were due to vote on union recognition. TikTok has repeatedly said it wasn't union busting at all, but was simply following a global plan to change the way it moderates content. Stella is helping to represent the workers in the legal case against TikTok.
This case specifically, we want compensation for the workers. They have been unlawfully dismissed because they were engaging with union activities. We want to kind of make this a precedent because we've seen a lot of this happening across the world.
Content moderation is widely documented as being distressing, but Linda says TikTok didn't take the mental health of moderators seriously.
You are monitored by AI all day long. Even if you see something which really affects you and you feel like you have tears in your ears, sometimes you cry, but then you carry on working because you have to reach those targets. Otherwise, your bonus will be affected, your job security, your salary, everything will be affected.
TikTok told us that it strongly rejects these baseless and inaccurate claims. We've made ongoing enhancements to our safety technologies and content moderation, which are borne out by the facts. A record rate of violative content removed by automated technology, at 91%, and record volume of violative content removed in under 24 hours, at 95%. According to its latest transparency report, TikTok removes more than 99% of harmful content before it's reported. According to data gathered for the EU's Digital Services Act, it also has the lowest error rates and highest accuracy rates in moderation among all the major social media platforms. But TikTok has already faced a lot of scrutiny over its attitude to online safety. These latest accusations may only add fuel to that fire.
Well, Mickey is here with us now. Talk us through, how does TikTok compare to other sites, I should say, as well?
So TikTok sort of punches above its weight, really. It's in comparison to things like Meta's platforms, it's smaller, so it's got 1.6 billion users compared to Meta's 4 billion. So
still a lot, though.
Yes, it's still a lot of users, yeah, and it's smaller. But it's that they have a much younger user base. So, I mean, we've all heard that young people don't use Facebook anymore. They're all on Twitter, they're all on TikTok, and they're all on Snapchat. And that's where these worries come in. I mean, we've been hearing so much in the last few weeks about young people on social media and the worries around that. And that's, I think, why this story becomes slightly wider than just what's going on at TikTok for their employees. It becomes about online safety because these moderators they're the kind of front line between what happens, what people post on TikTok and then what we see. The vast majority of what people post is exactly what we'd want to see on social media. You know, it's like the dances and the recipes and the things that we go to social media for. But there is some really dark content that ends up being put in front of these moderators. It's everything from kind of suicides and violent extremism, sexual abuse. That's what they're having to watch every day. So when relationships break down between the moderators and their employers, mistakes start happening, things start slipping through onto people's timelines, and especially with platforms like TikTok, the worry is that things start slipping through onto young people's timelines. And so they're like a really important part of this puzzle when we talk about online safety and young people. These moderators, and TikTok especially, are a really important part of that puzzle.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know you weren't downplaying the number anyway, but the other important piece of context on that is Meta, Facebook's, what was the number? 4
billion. Wow.
4 billion, but about half of that is WhatsApp. So actually, like for like, social media to social media, where most of this content gets through, you know, WhatsApp's obviously much more messaging to each other. They're as big as the others, give or take. Over-index, as you say, to young people, and with an algorithm that is controlled by a country that people don't trust entirely. Not that we trust all of the tech companies in general, but I think it's why TikTok is so much in the focus often.
Yeah, and I mean, that algorithm it's their secret sauce, right? That's exactly why so many people have been interested in TikTok for so long. It's why Trump administration really wanted to, you know, make sure that that sale worked, as well as online safety, obviously. But their algorithm is really good, and they've been really good at protecting it because it focuses on users particularly, whereas every other social platform has always included what other people's friends are watching, that sort of stuff, which actually might not be that relevant to you. TikTok focuses in on you.
It's really interesting, that. Mickey, thanks very much. Indeed, Mickey Carroll, talking to us there.
It's been a great night for the Brits at the Grammys. Of course, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, night in music.
They were on early this morning in LA, nighttime LA, early morning here, with Olivia Dean and Lola Young, 2 Brits picking up gongs.
It was also a deeply political evening, as our arts and entertainment correspondent Katie Spencer now reports.
I'm going to say, eyes out.
It was a night of anger seeping from the Grammys stage. Puerto Rican superstar Bad Bunny impassioned about the immigration operation in Minnesota. One of Britain's best, Olivia Dean, also using her very first Grammy win to speak out.
I guess I want to say I'm up here as a granddaughter of an immigrant. I wouldn't be here. Yeah, I'm a product of bravery, and I think those people deserve to be celebrated.
In the audience, a slightly more subtle stand taken. Ice Out badges worn by the likes of Hailey and Justin Bieber, who also delivered one of the night's stranger moments, inexplicably stripping down to his pants to perform. The late Ozzy Osbourne was celebrated in a tribute led by Post Malone, watched on by the rocker's wife Sharon and their children. In taking home Best Pop, Lola Young ensured there was another big British win, while history was made with Golden, the first ever K-pop song to win a Grammy.
Oh, the Grammy goes to Luther Vandross!
No thanks to Cher confusing his song with his name, Kendrick Lamar became the most awarded hip-hop artist in Grammy's history.
Kendrick Lamar!
While Bad Bunny seemed stunned to take home the big one, Album of the Year, the first ever Spanish-language album to do so. But really this felt less a night about songs, more speeches.
As grateful as I feel, I honestly don't feel like I need to say anything, but that no one is illegal on stolen land.
The volume of anger about America's current stance on immigration, drowning out any celebrations. Katie Spencer, Sky News.
Now, Arm Holdings is perhaps the most important company in the UK that you've never heard of. The computer chips that they design are in this camera, your TV or your smartphone at home, pretty much every single device around us, and perhaps most importantly, looking forward, in the vast majority of AI data centres. And they're a British company, founded and based in Cambridge, that remains the case today, even though they did decide to publicly list their shares in New York, not in London, in 2023. Thereby, they embody the debate about whether the UK can still build the most important things here. I caught up with their CEO, Rene Haas, and explored that very question. What does the UK offer and what does it lack? You know, half over half, I think you said, of your headcount is in the UK, particularly in Cambridge. Is that still the right place in the world to do this sort of innovation work?
Yeah, it's a wonderful question. Microprocessor design is really hard. Really, really hard, and getting very, very good at it in terms of building products and generations and iterating is very, very hard. So when you build a critical mass of people in a location who can understand how the architecture is designed, can teach engineers how it's built, and can bring on new legions of engineers, It's huge. So we've been in Cambridge ever since we started, early 1990s, so 30 plus years. There's a number of engineers. I think finally the last founders have retired, but there's a number of folks, Wilfred, who are there, have been there 25 years, 28 years. My chief architect, I think he's been there 28 years. Our head of engineering, 25, 26 years. It's hard to replace that critical mass. I mean, to pick that up and say, okay, we're going to move it to North Africa, because the talent's cheaper there, it's nonsensical, just in terms of attracting people and critical mass in terms of just getting the projects done.
And what about young talent hiring up in the UK?
We hire a lot of people. We have a graduate program, a few hundred a year, 200 to 300 a year that are hired in here. Cambridge, Oxford, Imperial College. So it's a big effort for us.
At the same time, I've heard you speak, since coming in 2022, about lacking some of the American hunger or mindset when it comes to scaling the company. Talk to me a bit about that and what you kind of observed and how you're trying to marry all of that. Obviously, your own background, having spent a huge part of your time in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, no, I think I've heard you on one of your podcasts talk about this since you lived in the States for a while.
It's kind of why I launched the podcast.
Yeah, so my career, early part of my career was with larger companies, but I always had an itch to do startups. So moved to Silicon Valley in the middle 1990s and did startups when I got there, and then joined NVIDIA, which is a big startup, founder-led company, et cetera, et cetera. So I was, my training and development and my DNA sort of morphed working with startup companies. I found that fit my nature well, the risk-taking, the entrepreneurship, trying something new. So when I joined ARM in 2013, wonderful company, and obviously was a startup at one point in time, what I was struck by was a bit of, we would go into meetings and we would talk about new projects, and the first 6 or 7 things we would talk about are all the things that could go wrong. Right, all the things why were the reasons that we shouldn't do this? And I don't know if that's a British thing, I don't know if that was an ARM thing, but I've definitely sensed it working on both sides of the pond, that for whatever the reasons are, and you were born here, you can probably say better than I can, there definitely is less appetite for risk, and maybe that comes from less of an appetite for failing, whereas in Silicon Valley, if you fail to some degree, it's a badge of honor. Here, I didn't sense that as much, and even inside ARM. So one of the things I've really tried hard to do since I took over in 2022, and even before that, was inject some of that Silicon Valley appetite for risk, moving quickly, making mistakes, but still keeping the things inside the ARM culture that are amazing. Super bright people, highly innovative, highly collaborative. So I've tried very hard to mix them both.
Just to continue on the sort of nationwide comparison, we've touched on why you love the UK. For ARM, what are we lacking versus that list of China and US's assets to not build the next ARM, but to build the next sort of hyperscaler?
Yeah, scale matters, unfortunately, in this world. The UK is not at the scale that the US or China is. But I've been very encouraged by some folks inside in the government, Peter Kyle, Liz Kendall. They've been very aggressive on this point, looking to do some things around data centers in the north. But I think also, back to the risk appetite, I think if we could get more venture capital inside the UK and then access even to secondary capital, where people who want to start companies can do so in the UK and have their companies thrive in the UK, and obviously go public in the UK. I mean, that would be a home run on all levels.
Wilf, such an interesting interview. Someone who is one of those, it's like you said in the intro, I guess, someone who you don't necessarily think of, not one of the most famous people, but who has such an important impact on this country. What were your kind of takeaways?
Well, and such an important impact on the AI race globally. I mean, their chips, the chips that they design, are in pretty much every device around us in the room. I mean, what I think is really crucial on this, was it a loss when they decided to publicly list, when they IPO'd, when they put their shares available to buy in New York? Yes, it was a great shame. But what's more important is where they are physically based. And they do remain headquartered here in Cambridge, with half of their headcount here in Cambridge. But if you rewound 5 or 10 years, much more than half of their headcount would be in Cambridge. So that's the sort of more key thing to look at.
And why do you think that is then? Why do you think they've made that decision?
Because, a huge amount of the innovation, as he was kind of pointing to, does come from the US now in this regard. But overall, I would say this was a big vote of confidence in Cambridge, in the UK, in particularly the talent that they find here, and that they're not going to move any of that headcount away, but with some clear advice on what needs to be done. By the way, as he had very clearly there, some warm words for Peter Kyle and Liz Kendall, that they're saying and doing the right things, I think, but also making clear the scale of gap we've got, not just with the US, but with China. And the full interview, which is available on the podcast, made really clear the battle between the US and China for AI supremacy is actually going to be very tight, and was more kind of relatively bullish China than perhaps people would expect. And by the way, in light of the Prime Minister just doing a trip there, was very much saying you've got to work with China. You've got to go work with them, but keep your eyes open.
Yeah, really, really interesting. To Gaza now, because Israel has confirmed the Rafah crossing, that absolutely crucial crossing between Gaza and Egypt, has officially opened. We can talk now to our Middle East correspondent, Adam Parsons, who joins us now. Adam, I mean, this is something that people have been, so, I guess, begging for, desperate for. What kind of impact could it have?
The difference, Sophie, is between what people have been hoping for and what the reality is on the ground of what reopening Rafah looks like. So, reopening the Rafah crossing, which is the only way for Gazans to leave Gaza and not end up in Israel, was part of the US-led peace plan. It's absolutely baked into that. But I think the expectation was that reopening the crossing would mean a lot of people being able to go in either direction and trucks full of aid being able to get into Gaza. That is not what we are going to see today. Instead, the reopening of Rafah is going to mean a very limited number of people, but they will be going in either direction, and it will mean no aid lorries being able to get into Gaza from Egypt. So on the one side, you've got people who will be leaving Gaza and going into Egypt. Those people, I expect, will all be either those in need of urgent medical attention or people accompanying those casualties. And that isn't just people wounded by war, that is people suffering from cancer or from long-term illnesses. Remember, the healthcare system in Gaza has been hugely destroyed. So even allowing for a couple of companions each, that's only probably 150 people per day leaving Gaza and going into Egypt. Coming in the other direction, it may be as few as 50 people who are coming back into Gaza. Those will be from the estimated 42,000 who have fled Gaza during the war. So that is a comparative trickle. Now, all of these people are going to be subject to huge security screening. When they leave Gaza going to Egypt, they'll be met by Egyptian forces, also by an EU force. There won't be Israeli officials on the ground, but Israel will be using facial recognition to check everyone leaving. Those who are going into Gaza, again, big security screening and an extra Israeli checkpoint when they go through the Rafah crossing and head towards Gaza. So Israel maintains a very, very strong control on who's coming in and who's going out, a strong control on the numbers. I think there are plenty, notably humanitarian aid organisations, who will be hoping that this is the start, that Israel, once it sees that this is functional, allows the numbers to increase and, crucially, allows aid lorries to get into Gaza. But at the moment, this is hugely symbolic, but in terms of big impact, it's going to be very limited.
Adam, thanks so much, Adam Parsons, for us there this morning. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll speak to the music journalist Paul Stokes after a couple of big wins for British artists at the Grammys late last night.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
We've done the work and the reading, so you don't have to. Being a Sky News presenter. Hello and welcome, Westminster, the heart of British politics. I'm so sorry about what happened to you. So what on earth is going on?
It's not true.
Can I tell you what I think is really unusual? Mornings with Richard Frost. Let's crack on. Let's get started.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
Who's funnier?
Being a Sky News journalist.
A special edition of The World with me, Yalda Hakim.
Pakistan has the right to respond.
You're like, what?
Historic day here today. Congratulations, this is a huge moment. But what happens now?
Welcome back. We can talk now to Samel Stride, who is the Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer. Good to have you here this morning.
Thanks, Sophie.
I just want to talk on, if I may, at the beginning on Lord Mandelson. He's obviously resigned his membership of the Labour Party. We spoke to the government earlier today, who said that they're glad that he's resigned. Do you think that we need to go further? Do you think that he should be stripped of his titles, I guess in the same way as Prince Andrew, the guy formerly known as Prince Andrew?
Well, good morning. I think a few things, actually. I think the Prime Minister should have shown more backbone and basically pushed Lord Mandelson out of the Labour Party and not have left it for him to decide he was going to resign. I think the second thing, though, is that in terms of his title, I think it's quite complicated constitutionally, actually, to remove somebody from the House of Lords, as I understand it. But I don't think Peter Mandelson belongs in the House of Lords. And I think there are other things you can do, including removing him from the role of peers as a way of downgrading his current situation.
Yeah,
with
so
the House of Lords.
you don't think he belongs in the House of Lords?
No, I don't believe so. Not given what we know and what has happened, and him having to have been fired as US ambassador and so on and so forth. I just don't think that adds up to the right answer being him staying there. But I would say one final thing, which is that more and more information is coming out of the woodwork through time. Now, some of it, of course, contested by Lord Mandelson, and that's fine. But we do need to get to the truth. We need to get to the facts. And I think we now need a full independent inquiry into all the facts around what has happened here and the broader issues around the information that's coming out in this giant haystack of data that people are now going through around the Epstein affair.
Yeah, I guess in moving away from Lord Mandelson, as you say, he contests a lot of it. He said he doesn't recall some of it. He doubts the authenticity of some of it. But I guess the wider thing that we're seeing is someone who is very rich and powerful, and the influence that they are able to get among members of the elite. I mean, I guess it almost validates the concerns that people had all along about the way the rich and powerful behave.
I think the thing that we mustn't lose sight of in all of this is whether it's rich and powerful people or not, there are victims, and there are women that have suffered grievously as a consequence of the behaviour of various individuals. And I think we owe it to them, amongst other issues, to actually get to the bottom of this. So when it comes to testifying, for example, to Congress, I think that Peter Mandelson should do that. I think that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor should also do that. And that is about getting to the truth, because these are very, very serious issues for those who have been deeply impacted by them.
You're doing a speech later today about trade. What's the main message there?
That free trade matters, that we should stand up for it, that we need a voice that's out there, and it is the Conservative Party, that puts the case for free trade, that tariffs are damaging overall to living standards, to jobs, and so on, and that we've seen in this new world under President Trump too readily reaching for tariffs, not just in terms of trying to improve the terms of trade for America, but equally being used as a way of trying to coerce other countries into doing things that he wants them to do, including ceding sovereign territory from fellow NATO members. So I think we need to have a voice that's out there in the public square, unequivocally standing up for free trade.
Are you saying that Keir Starmer should be more robust in standing up to Donald Trump, more critical of Donald Trump?
I think all parties, I would urge them to do that, and to be a clear, unequivocal voice standing up for free trade. Now, the party that worries me the most in that respect actually is Reform, because if you look at what they say and what Nigel Farage says, they'll often lean positively into President Trump, and rightly so on issues like spending more on defence. We can all agree on that. But when it comes to things like tariffs, they're far too quiet, and the national interest seems to go out the window. They're far more interested in cozying up to President Trump on issues like that than is healthy for people up and down our country.
I can see who you're worried about in the local elections.
Well, it's not a question of that. I'm speaking today.
I mean, you're right. I'm not. You know,
I'm speaking today.
Criticising.
Well, the hook for this.
Polls show Reform way ahead, aren't they? So you're right to be.
The poll that will matter will be at the general election. Then let's see what happens at May. In the meantime, but the hook for this, actually, Sophie, is that I'm giving a speech later this morning, to the British American companies group, and we will be talking about these kind of issues because I think they matter.
I think it's fair to say, you're probably more to the centre than the right of the Conservative Party, more in the camp that says you need to emphasise economic credibility rather than trying to out-reform reform. So do you think it's a good thing that people like Robert Jenrick, like Suella Braverman, have left the Conservative Party to join Reform?
Well, you mentioned the economy, and that's the most important thing as we go forward now is, I think, increasingly going to be the economy. Where I stand on the economy is that we need a radical, emphasise the word radical, rewiring of the UK economy if we're going to get it growing in a way that will meet the challenges that are coming down the line.
So the question was about Robert Jenrick and Suella Braverman, then.
But my point is, yes, but I was coming on to that. So, but they've gone to a party that is economically incoherent and will, I think, represents a present danger to the economy of our country, because none of the numbers add up. So they go out and they make all these promises about cutting taxes left, right and centre. No proper plan as to how that is going to be paid for. And that is something where we've seen that playbook before and we know where it ends. They're also the party of nationalisation, if they think that plays well. They're the party of spending more on welfare, on not getting on top of the benefits bill and so on. That's not the party that I believe in. So, the party I believe in is the one that wants to get on top of welfare and to get the economy radically rewired.
The question is then, do you think it's a good thing that people like Robert Jenrick, like Suella Braverman, have left the Conservatives to join Reform?
Well, those are decisions for them. I just find it very deeply curious as to why they would do that, given the economic policies, in particular, of the Reform Party, which are reckless and irresponsible. So there we go.
Mel Stride, thank you very much. Mel Stride there, the Shadow Chancellor, speaking to us today.
Let's get more now on the Grammys. It's been a big night for a number of British artists, including Olivia Dean and Lola Young, both picking up big awards at the Grammys. It's also a deeply political night with several artists hitting out at immigration enforcement operations in the US.
I'm going to say eyes out.
I'm up here as a granddaughter of an immigrant. I wouldn't be here. I'm a product of bravery, and I think those people deserve to be celebrated.
Joining us is Paul Stokes, the music journalist. Very good morning to you. Good morning, to see you. Yeah. I don't know where we should start. Let's start with the music and the British successes. How big a moment is this for Lola and Olivia Dean?
Absolutely massive night. I mean, for Olivia in particular to win one of the big four awards, as they call it, to be like the best new artist is huge. And I think it just shows how she's managed to cut through. I mean, the music she makes, her record, she could probably release that any time in the last 30 years and won a Grammy. It's that sort of timeless. So I think it's a big moment for her. Fantastic for Lola Young as well, because she had taken some time away from doing music, because I think she was quite overwhelmed by the fame and the attention that came with her breakthrough. So to come back at the Grammys and take the Best Pop Vocal Performance Award is a great one. And generally a great night for British artists. The Cure won 2 in the alternative category, FK Twigs Best Electronic Record, Cynthia Evero, she was won with Ariana Grande Best Pop Duo, Young Blood won a rock performance. So it's quite a big night for the Brits in a way, but obviously slightly overshadowed by what people have been saying on stage, understandably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned there what people have been saying on stage, and of course that's the politics of it. And we saw artist after artist getting up there and using their moment in the spotlight to shine a light on ICE, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been sort of well predicted that would happen. Bad Bunny winning the Best Album Award. I mean, the first Spanish language record to make it, but it's a record that very much delves into his Puerto Rican heritage. You know, he dedicated his award to people who had to leave their homelands to follow their dreams. Billie Eilish as well, talking about, land, you can't be illegal on stolen land. Even Olivia talking about being the granddaughter of immigrants. I think it was largely predicted it was going to happen, and throughout the night you had lots of sort of celebration of immigration, but also some quite explicit anti-ICE comments as well.
We'll see if that kind of picks up as well with a lot of the film awards to come. I guess we've had some of the film awards, but some of that might have been before the worst stuff took off in Minnesota, so we'll see if it continues. The other big kind of standout on the British side was a tribute to Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah. Yes, they had a performance with Post Malone and members of Guns N' Roses. Big sort of performance of Changes. Yeah, very emotional night. Obviously, Sharon Osbourne was there, was watching in the front row. It was quite touching, actually, because they also had one for Roberta Flack, which Lauryn Hill did as well, which was a really sort of great medley of the songs she's done. So it's interesting, because I think when Ozzy went, you've got, because he was this sort of quite approachable icon in a funny sort of way, you sort of lost the sense of how globally important he was and how influential he was, you know, with something like the Grammys. And I think, you know, it's fantastic they did that tribute.
Yeah, and what, if you were the sort of person who looks at the Grammy Awards and you're like, I don't know any of these guys, you know, I'm out of date when it comes to music. Who would you pick as the person?
This is a question for me, this.
Who are the people you'd pick out and say, you should listen to this song, these people are great, this is the artist that's breaking through?
Well, Olivia Dean, obviously, I mean, it's easy because she won the Best Award, but that music is such great...
And talk to us about Olivia Dean, like, who is she, what kind of stuff does she do?
So she's a British artist, she's sort of come through, you know, she's made a couple of records, it's taken a few years. I think this is the thing now with artists. It takes you 2 or 3 records before you actually break. In the old days, you know, you could have one big blow-up moment, and she's worked her way slowly, and her recent record is just a real mix of sort of soulful music, but it's just really sort of infectiously fun and music you sort of want to inhabit and that kind of thing. And she's up for a lot of Brit Awards as well, so I think we're going to be seeing more from her in terms of that kind of thing. The Bad Bunny record, which obviously you might get the sense of like, oh, it's, you know, it's quite full on. It's the blend of sort of house music, reggae, old Puerto Rican stuff. It's actually quite a kind of mellow, sort of fun record in a lot of places. So that's a good one. Although it will be really interesting because he does the Super Bowl next weekend at the halftime show. So this might just be the warm-up to what he's going to do there, because I think Trump has already said to him that's ridiculous that he's playing it. So
yeah.
Well, it's going to... I can't imagine he doesn't repeat some of the political messaging. So I agree it's going to be fascinating to watch. Can I just dwell on the final thing of Brit Awards versus Grammys, because we've obviously got BAFTAs coming up and we've got the Oscars. Do the artists care overwhelmingly more about the Grammys, or not, actually? Do the Brits kind of punch above their weight?
It's interesting because the Grammys is like 80-odd awards, and the Grammys sort of have a tradition of being quite conservative voting academy. So I think the Grammys is a great night for being in one place in LA and making deals and talking to people, and if you win an award, that's great. I think the Brits, because it's a lot more focused, if you're a British artist and you win a Brit, it could have a big impact on, particularly in this market, and you know, who listens to your records immediately afterwards.
Do you think it's going to be political, the Brits as well?
I think so, although it's in Manchester for the first time, so I think that's going to change the ceremony. So I think there's going to be a real sense of how that atmosphere changes.
When is the Brits?
So that's at the end of February.
Just before the Gorton and Denton by-election.
Wilf, that says a lot about you.
Is that what you meant about will it be political?
No. I mean...
I know that's not what you meant.
I think if anyone works that into a speech, they deserve a prize.
Yeah, exactly. I think it says a lot about this programme that, you know, we know the date of the Gorton and Denton by-election, we've got to ask when the Brits are.
Come on, it's in Manchester. This is...
There you go. I love it. Thanks very much indeed. Great to have you on.
Paul, thanks so much.
Time now to take a look at the weather. Lots and lots of rain around this week.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors Sky News Weather.
Well, there's more rain to come this week. That means a risk of flooding, where the ground is already pretty saturated with water. It's going to be a chilly start this morning for much of Ireland, Northern Ireland and western parts of Britain, with a risk of icy patches and freezing fog. Further east, it is grey and damp again. A brisk easterly wind will feed in further showers and hill snow to eastern Scotland and north-east England today. Central parts of Britain are cloudy with some patchy rain and drizzle. There will be some brighter skies, though, further west.
All Clear Travel Insurance proudly sponsors Sky News Weather.
Jackie's here after the break.
The Gordon and Denton by-election. That's the best you got.
Well, it's a sort of snapshot of, sadly, where we're at, isn't it? That's as political as we can get.
We're going to go to Melbourne next. We're going to have the latest reaction to the Australian Open final between Carlos Alcaraz and Novak Djokovic. They were both tired, but it was still good.
Mr. Trump, James Matthews from Sky News.
Hey, James.
I'm James Matthews, and I'm Sky's US correspondent, based here in Washington, D.C.
Mr. President, what will you say next to Benjamin Netanyahu?
In June 2009, did you stay at the apartment in Manhattan of Jeffrey Epstein?
I'm not answering any questions about him.
I'm Martha Kellner and I'm Sky's US correspondent. I've interviewed some of America's most recognisable politicians. Should the Defence Secretary and the Vice...
Wait, what country are you
from the UK?
Okay, we don't give a crap about your opinion and your reporting.
Mr Walker, you're anti-abortion, but 2 women say that you paid for their abortions. Are you a hypocrite, sir?
Connor, what did you say to the president? What did you say?
We had a great meeting. He was a great man.
I'm David Blevins, one of Sky's US correspondents based in Washington, D.C.
David Blevins from Sky News. Fire chiefs say that they're really stretched to the limit and running out of water. What have you got to say to that?
I've witnessed the remarkable passion for politics here.
Why only in America? Why is this American exceptionalism? I just want to understand why you do not think that guns are the problem.
Why is this just an American problem?
The anger too, and the division.
Where are you from? From Sky News, UK.
Yeah.
Back up.
Mr. Navarro,
I'm allowed to ask questions, aren't I?
I'm Mark Stone and I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Washington, D.C.
Vladimir Putin calls you outstanding, Mr. Musk. Has your ego and ignorance, sir, cost Ukrainian lives?
David Cameron needs to worry about his own country, and frankly, he can kiss my ass.
Mr. Patel, did you endanger public safety when you said the killer was in custody?
Free wherever you get your news.
What words do you have for Harry Dunn's family today?
Have a nice day.
Do you fear a fourth indictment?
There's a fresh look to your news from 10 on Sky News.
It's a new show called The Wrap, every night of the week.
We'll still bring you the day's biggest stories,
but with more lively debate,
more in-depth commentary,
and more of what you need to know.
Plus a look at what's making tomorrow's headlines.
The Wrap.
Everything wrapped up for you from 10 on Sky News.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
They call him the king of the jungle.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Yusra Al-Baghir has this report.
And this is what's left of it.
As a woman of colour, how did the Harris campaign speak to you?
People risk their lives to speak to us for this report.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
Welcome back. Time for the sport, and we're going to kick off with the tennis.
We are, but just, can I say, happy transfer deadline day. You're not wearing yellow. 7 o'clock tonight, 11 o'clock in Scotland. It's going to be all go. Probably not.
But why probably not? There are not many deals pending today.
I don't know. I think the main ones that are going on at the moment, Jeremy Jacquet to Liverpool from Rennes, a defender for 60 million, should go through today.
Just a cool 60 million?
Yeah, but he won't be allowed to go now, but he'll have to go at the end of the season. Wolves have accepted an offer for Jørgen Strand Larsen for less money than they wanted, but 48 million. That should go through today. And Jean-Philippe Mateta doesn't know if he's going to be allowed to leave at Palace to go to AC Milan. Their doctors are coming today, so that's. So it could be more interesting than we think.
I feel for Palace, have to say, as an aside.
They're
brutal.
They're really troubled,
I really
at the moment? Really troubled. Anyway, happier thoughts are the Australian Open. I don't know if you watched it yesterday morning. Yeah. Everybody was kind of worried. What shape are these two men going to be in when they contest a final? You want a great final, but if they've contested the most extraordinary semi-finals that have lasted hours and, you know, in one almost days because Djokovic didn't get to bed till 6 in the next morning, what shape would they be in? Now, he's 38. What shape could he really bring to that final? That was pretty good.
Oh, it was brilliant.
It was pretty good, all things considered. Alcaraz, the winner. Yeah, Alcaraz, the winner in the end, and the youngest man to win all 4 majors. And I sort of wasn't in doubt until the first set, when it kind of was. Let's have a look at a little bit of the action for you. So, Djokovic, he'll be 39 in May, took an early lead in the match, and he just came out of the block so quickly and dominated that first set. He had to, really. He won it 6-2. But Alcaraz, he'll be 23 in May, roared back to win the next 3 sets, 6-2, 6-3, 7-5, doing all sorts of Alcaraz-type things. He does have another level. Alcaraz taking that record of the youngest men's career Grand Slam winner. He's over 18 months younger than Rafa Nadal was when he completed that feat. What I think is quite funny as well, that Alcaraz's birthday is in May and Rafa Nadal's birthday is also in May. They've got so many similarities,
so I was
being Spanish.
Checking this stat. So, as you said, Nadal's 24 when he first won all 4.
Yeah, because he took a while to win Wimbledon, a few goes, yeah.
Well, still 24, not bad. But what's crazy is Djokovic and Federer, who are the other, 2 titans of the recent era, were 27 and 29, respectively. Federer 27, Djokovic 29, which really does show how early Alcaraz has managed it.
It's extraordinary. It's amazing. Amazing achievement.
Yeah, and the fact he just makes it look so easy-breezy, doesn't he? It's just like... He misses something, he laughs. He wins something, he laughs. He gets the crowd going. He's a showman. It's kind of everything you want. And the style of tennis he plays is
I love
thrilling
him
to watch.
I totally agree, Jackie. He wears it all very lightly, and he's funny, he's joking, he's smiling. He looks like he's having a good time. It's hard not to like him.
Yeah, when he won Wimbledon the first time, and there were so many TV crews waiting afterwards. I mean, I'm not joking. There must be about 50, and he had like a bucket hat on, and he was just like laughing and joking with every single person that he went to.
It's great.
Whereas some people just go, oh, no, look at all those interviews. He just went, yeah, bring it on.
But amazing for Djokovic to even get to the final at 38.
And, yeah, his speech afterwards as well, I felt like you felt also a bit like a bit of a goodbye speech to Australia. I don't know if I'm going to be in this position again to get this microphone in the final, so I'm going to say a few words and thank everyone and sort of pass the baton and... Yeah, it just did seem a little bit sad.
When we were on the sofa watching it, that's what we said. It's like feels like a retirement speech.
Like he doesn't really know if he's going to be there next year. Yeah, I agree.
Premier League?
Anyway, Premier League yesterday. My goodness, who'd have thought we'd be sitting here this morning going, Tottenham Hotspur have done a massive favour to Arsenal. I mean, huge.
Cheers, lads.
Yeah. I didn't really see that coming, to be honest, watching that match. Manchester City looked like they were playing in a different league to Spurs in that first half. I mean, Spurs couldn't get near them. It was extraordinary. It was 2-0. You know, you felt like it could have been loads more in the second half, and you just thought Spurs going in at half-time would think, what are we going to do here? How are we going to turn this around? By the way, that celebration from Antoine Semenyo, who joined the club in the transfer window and has just slotted right in, I can't believe Pep will be happy with that. I think a back somersault on a slippy, rainy day in London.
Because he could injure himself, right?
I used to be able to do that. And you can really injure yourself. Groin strain, I mean, you name it. There's a host of injuries you can get from doing a somersault when you don't do them all the time. But anyway, Spurs came out in the second half. They were so good. They really upped the energy. And Manchester City went so down. I mean, the drop-off in level was extraordinary. And in fact, Spurs, you know, Solanke was their saviour. He got both goals. He wasn't a hat-trick and then was taken off. They could have had more. And Donnarumma made 2 really, really good saves in that game. They could have won that match. I think they were happy to walk away with the point. And Manchester City were kind of lucky in the end. But I'd love to know what Pep said to them after, you know, they were so dominant, so in control. And then they weren't.
As you said, though, a kind of gift to Arsenal yesterday.
Yeah, and
Villa dropped as well.
Villa dropped points. They lost as well by a 0-0, and Utara scored that goal. But Manchester United, what story this is turning out to be under an interim manager. 3 wins on the spin against Fulham. Fulham fought back late on in that match. And then in real Fergie time, Benjamin Šeško, who's had a really sort of torrid time since joining for so much money, 94 minutes, gets the winner when Fulham had just equalised down the other end. I mean, great scenes.
And they're fourth now, Man United.
And into the Champions League spots and looking really strong under Michael Carrick. You kind of wonder what he's said to them, what he's done. I mean, one of the key football writers said, was Amorim full of hot air? Was he just all talk? Have they wasted a year?
Well,
this is how they always wanted to play.
Certainly a very impressive start for Michael Carrick. Jackie,
really impressive.
Thanks so much. We'll see Jackie again next hour. We'll see you all next hour. And don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this short break with all the day's top news, including further reaction to the release of those Epstein files.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
I'm going to take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live. They have gone up and up.
Big Sky News journalist.
Ed Conway. Sky News, is anyone going to talk to us? Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office. Here it is.
First off, just the scale of what we're looking at.
Our data shows it's been happening. Question is why it hasn't been stopped.
Good morning to you. It's 9 o'clock. Welcome to Mornings with Ridge and Frost.
Sophie and Wilf, good morning from both of us, and thanks for joining us.
Lord Mandelson quits the Labour Party to avoid further embarrassment over his links to Jeffrey Epstein.
A crackdown on people smuggling, up to 5 years in prison for people who advertise illegal routes into the UK on social media.
A former TikTok employee tells Sky News of claims of a culture of bullying, harassment and union busting within the company.
The boss of the UK's leading tech company says the UK is too risk-averse and lacks the hunger to succeed.
And British singer Olivia Dean among the big winners at a highly political Grammy Awards.
Hello, good morning. Lord Mandelson has quit the Labour Party to avoid causing it, in his words, further embarrassments. It's after the latest release of the Epstein files.
We had another huge release of those files on Friday, including email exchanges and thousands of videos and images. And they revealed the close connections the convicted paedophile had to the rich and powerful. We should say that appearing in the files is not evidence of wrongdoing.
But look, some of the material is quite something like this. A picture appearing to show Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, formerly Prince Andrew, on all fours over an unidentified young woman.
And this appearing to show Peter Mandelson in his underwear and a T-shirt standing next to a woman in a dressing gown. We do not know when, where or by whom the photo was taken. Lord Mandelson was sacked as US ambassador last year because of his links to Epstein. Now, documents that Sky News has been analysing also suggest that Epstein paid Lord Mandelson $75,000 in the early 2000s. The revelations have led to his decision to step down from the Labour Party.
So in a statement, Lord Mandelson said, "I have been further linked this weekend to the understandable furore surrounding Jeffrey Epstein, and I feel regretful and sorry about this. Allegations which I believe to be false, that he made financial payments to me 20 years ago, and of which I have no record or recollection, need investigating by me."
While doing this, I do not wish to cause further embarrassment to the Labour Party, and I'm therefore stepping down from membership of the party.
We're going to discuss this more in just a moment, but first we just wanted to remind you a bit of the central figure in all of this, Jeffrey Epstein himself, because interviews emerged. It's a pretty chilling clip we want to play you. We don't know who the interviewer is. He doesn't appear on camera, but it's believed to be Steve Bannon, who served in the White House for part of Donald Trump's first term as president as his chief strategist. So the circumstances around this interview are pretty unclear, but this is Jeffrey Epstein talking about whether his money was dirty money and whether he views himself as the devil.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
No, but I do have a good mirror.
It's a serious question. Do you think you're the devil himself?
I don't know. Why would you say that?
Because you have all the attributes. You're incredibly smart. You remember, the devil is somebody who knows
smart?
The devil's brilliant. You read Milton's Paradise Lost.
No, the devil scares me.
Well, Mari's here to discuss this all further for us. The resignation from the Labour Party came at what time yesterday, and how does it all kind of land for the government?
So it was about 10:30 last night where the news broke that Lord Mandelson had resigned from the Labour Party. You read out that statement where he explains that it was about trying not to pile any further embarrassment on the Labour Party after undeniably huge amounts of embarrassment already. And he also talked about how it was the best thing for the party. He loved the party and that's why he was doing it, and also wanted to reiterate his apology to the women and girls, the victims, specifically around the fact that they were failed by authorities rather than necessarily his own actions, which I think is interesting just in terms of that distinction. And essentially, the government line is that he was, gotten rid of in the autumn from being our ambassador to the US once they found out more details. And now that they know even more details, they're glad he's gone. Good riddance. That's the kind of line we're getting from the government. The difficulty, of course, is that with every email, picture that comes out, more comes to light, the questions start to get louder around whether the Prime Minister's instincts or judgment was adequate, and whether perhaps they should have been firmer on Lord Mandelson in the first place rather than allowing this to slightly drag out. And Sophie, you were speaking to Olivia Bailey earlier, the government minister, about just that, really, and what the government's decisions were and whether they were adequate, and what the PM knew as well. I think we can have a listen to her answers to you now.
The information that we now have from the documents this weekend, the documents in the autumn, was not available to the Prime Minister before that decision was taken to appoint Peter Mandelson. And as soon as the information did become clear, rightly, the Prime Minister took swift action to remove Peter Mandelson as US Ambassador. And I'm glad that Peter Mandelson is no longer a member of the Labour Party.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I do wonder if this is going to be the last of it or the pressure is mounting. I should say we spoke to Samel Stride too, the Shadow Chancellor, and he went pretty far in what he thinks should happen next. Let's just have a listen.
I think the thing that we mustn't lose sight of in all of this is whether it's rich and powerful people or not, there are victims, and there are women that have suffered grievously as a consequence of the behaviour of various individuals. And I think we owe it to them, amongst other issues, to actually get to the bottom of this. So when it comes to testifying, for example, to Congress, I think that Peter Mandelson should do that. I think that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor should also do that. And that is about getting to the truth, because these are very, very serious issues.
In that interview, he also said that he thinks that Peter Mandelson shouldn't be in the Lords as well. So it does feel like this pressure's continuing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been talking to the Lords this morning to just double-check, because there's been some reporting about the fact that maybe he's going to, lose his peerage or resign his peerage. Now, as far as we understand it, so far, he's on a leave of absence from the Lords, but he has not yet resigned his position in the House of Lords. That, of course, could change. And I think you're right to say that there will be huge amounts of pressure, political and also societal.
In the very short term, or since he became the ambassador?
I think it's since he became the ambassador. I don't think that's...
But not in reaction to resigning as Labour Party member yesterday?
No, I don't believe so. So essentially the question is, will he resign his peerage permanently? And if so, when will that happen? And, I mean, he's been quite quick off the bat in terms of his political instincts to see when something is kind of really non-survivable. So the question is, does he also therefore see the writing on the wall and decide to resign that peerage, or does he think he can stick it out?
All right, great stuff. Thanks so much. Now, let's talk about small boats. People who advertise illegal routes into the UK on social media face up to 5 years in prison under new laws which come into effect from today. Our correspondent Oliver Whitfield is here to break this down. Sorry, Oliver.
Olivia also.
I don't know where that came from. Oliver, what is this? What is new in this announcement?
So the new thing is that the government no longer needs to show that these advertisements, which have been online for the past few years, have actually caused the crossings to happen. Instead, the mere fact that people are publishing them means that they can then be targeted with these up to 5-year prison sentences. The government wants to appear like it's being very tough on immigration. And we hear from the Border Security Minister, Alex Norris, saying that they're going after the people smugglers, they're really putting the cloche on them. You know, the NCA, which is Britain's version of the FBI, will be scouring social media. Last year, they took down 10,000 posts, groups, various postings that they found online, which made these adverts for people being able to cross from northern France over the English Channel and then make their way to the UK. And the videos are pretty slickly made from what we've seen. They're often got backing music, they've got snazzy graphics, phone numbers that you can call, you can get in touch with people on the likes of WhatsApp. So the government hoping that this will be the latest cog that they can turn in order to put pressure on the people smugglers. We've seen them working with the French authorities in order to board the boats and to stop people smugglers from managing to get their boats to the beaches. We've seen them working with the likes of Germany to stop them from selling the boats, because a lot of the time the boats or the small dinghies were being sold in Germany and then brought across via vehicle to northern France. And then they've also got this latest deal that they've done with China in order to try and stop the Chinese manufacturing of the engines that go on the boat. So it looks like the government's trying to do as much as possible to take out the various strands of the people smuggling operations, but the numbers still remain pretty high under Labour.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers are what it all comes down to, right? There has been a bit of a drop in January, but, you know, as you were saying, what happens over the summer is the real key. I'll be honest, I'm kind of astonished by this story, that this stuff is out there already, because you were able to find some of this stuff, right? What happened? You just went on some of these social media sites, searched for a few terms, and it came up.
Yeah. So TikTok was where I found most of them, because that's the social media of choice nowadays. And invariably, it is in a foreign language. So we see it in Pashto, which is one of the languages of Afghanistan. There is some in Pakistan. There is some from India. There's some even from Albania. A lot of the time, they use code words. They'll use emojis. So it'll often be like a UK flag and a boat. You know, prices are on there, sometimes about £4,000 for a crossing. And that's just for the crossing alone. So bear in mind that a lot of the people that have gone on these journeys will have paid intermediaries and people smugglers from their home country to then go across the various routes, be that through North Africa or through the sort of Silk Road through Istanbul, Turkey sort of way. So, yeah.
It's extraordinary, it really is.
Oliver, great stuff. Thanks so much. Now, a former moderator at TikTok has told Sky News about a culture of bullying, harassment and union busting within the company.
So this is a woman called Linda Uzar. She's speaking out for the first time against TikTok because she and a number of other colleagues as well, former colleagues, are preparing to launch legal action against TikTok, one of the biggest social media companies in the world. This is Mickey Carroll, our science and technology reporter.
I was finding it really hard to sleep at night time, having flashbacks, you know, feeling tired.
She's been silent until now. For the first time, this former TikTok moderator is speaking out to reveal what she says is happening behind the doors of one of the world's biggest social media companies.
To know that, you know, we are protecting the platform from harmful content. That was very motivating, but from another side, we are also humans and we're not much prepared or there isn't much support around to deal with these things.
For years, TikTok has employed people in London and all over the world to sift through some of the darkest stuff on the internet to make sure it doesn't reach our feeds. But Linda and 4 others in her position are the latest UK employees to launch legal action against the company.
No risks, no buts, no trust and safety counts. One more time.
They say that despite the mental distress they were putting themselves through for the company, when they joined their union, TikTok turned against them.
Lots of bullying, harassment, exclusion from the team, from projects. There's a lot of things were going on. My performance, for example, moved from being top performer in January to June. So I scored triple E, which is exceeding expectations in all areas, to I, which is the lowest in the company.
Colleagues in another department were also accusing TikTok of union busting at the time. Hundreds of redundancies were announced just 1 week before they were due to vote on union recognition. TikTok has repeatedly said it wasn't union busting at all, but was simply following a global plan to change the way it moderates content. Stella is helping to represent the workers in the legal case against TikTok.
This case specifically, we want compensation for the workers. They have been unlawfully dismissed because they were engaging with union activities. We want to kind of make this a precedent because we've seen a lot of this happening across the world.
Content moderation is widely documented as being distressing, but Linda says TikTok didn't take the mental health of moderators seriously.
You are monitored by AI all day long. Even if you see something which really affects you and you feel like you have tears in your ears, sometimes you cry, but then you carry on working because you have to reach those targets. Otherwise, your bonus will be affected, your job security, your salary, everything will be affected.
TikTok told us that it strongly rejects these baseless and inaccurate claims. We've made ongoing enhancements to our safety technologies and content moderation, which are borne out by the facts. A record rate of violative content removed by automated technology, at 91%, and record volume of violative content removed in under 24 hours, at 95%. According to its latest transparency report, TikTok removes more than 99% of harmful content before it's reported. According to data gathered for the EU's Digital Services Act, it also has the lowest error rates and highest accuracy rates in moderation among all the major social media platforms. But TikTok has already faced a lot of scrutiny over its attitude to online safety. These latest accusations may only add fuel to that fire.
Mickey's here. Mickey, I just want to start by just pausing for a minute because it always strikes me that being a moderator on any social media platform must be like the most awful job you could ever have, because your role is just to watch the most awful stuff, right?
Yeah, and I think that's... Whenever I've spoken to moderators, especially over the last few months, they all went in with kind of a really clear vision of what they wanted to achieve and felt quite good about the job, because what you're doing is really important as a moderator. You're protecting people, but you're especially protecting children. And so they had like a real kind of vigour about what they were doing. And when, like Linda, for example, for her, that was part of the disappointment of the lack of support that she felt that she got from TikTok, because she felt that what she was doing was really important and was told that what she was doing was really important, but then felt that there wasn't the support from TikTok to do it properly. And like you say, like it's a really important job that takes a lot of mental energy. You're sifting through violent content, sexual abuse, that sort of stuff. And so when the trust breaks down between a moderator and their employer, it can have really kind of serious real-world consequences, because those people are that front line between what we see on our news feeds and what gets posted. And so if they feel like they're under pressure, I mean, she talked there about being monitored constantly by AI, not being able to take breaks. If they feel like they're under pressure and not able to take the breaks that they need to moderate properly, then mistakes start happening and errors start slipping through. And so it's a real, although it's a story about what's happening specifically at TikTok, it's also a story, I think, that has much wider context about online safety.
Okay, great stuff. Thank you so much. But let's talk about this in more detail. Also, we'll be talking about the government's new plans to try and skill up the workforce on AI. We're joined by William Tunstall-Pedo, the founder and chief executive of Unlikely AI now. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Can I just get your view on the story we were just covering? Because there's a point, all social media companies, none in particular, where they employ humans to try and moderate for content, but only after their algorithms freely push content across all of us, rather than just leaving it to be who we choose to follow. Is there something sort of a little bit rich from the perspective of the companies saying they're trying to moderate when we know what the starting point is for how all this content reaches us?
Well, I don't think they have an alternative, because the sheer scale of the volume of stuff on social media is enormous. So it's simply impossible to moderate it all with humans. So they're going to be using AI as the primary mechanism to moderate it, and then a small percentage of that can be filtered through to the human moderators.
I guess my question I didn't make clear is, couldn't they just adjust their algorithms in the first place? Couldn't it simply be, we choose who to follow and leave it at that, which is clearly not the case. It's not how this industry has developed.
So what the moderation is by just limiting...
The moderation is something they have to do from a problem they've created themselves. Is that a fair framing of it or not?
I'm not so sure. I think the nature of social media is that people can post whatever content they want, and obviously that may be within or without the rules. So they need a process of dealing with that at scale. There's not really a solution other than automatic systems to try and deal with that.
I'm really interested to have you on the programme. Look at your kind of backstory. You've been, entrepreneur right at the, I guess, forefront of AI in the UK, but lots of these products, Amazon, Alexa, like all these things are very familiar to us. I'm honestly quite worried about the jobs market in particular and the impact that AI is going to have on it, particularly for younger people. Should we be worried, or actually is there opportunity there?
I'm an optimist. I think AI
is making me feel better.
I think AI is going to change the job market. It's going to automate things that are currently being done by people, and that will change the nature of work and change the nature of jobs. But very little of what AI does automates full jobs. So it will change individual jobs. People will find themselves doing more of one thing and less of another. It'll make people more efficient. It will benefit the economy. And I think also, if you look over history, technology change is not new. There's been technology change for hundreds of years, changing the job market, and we've still had full employment or close to full employment for all of that time. And I don't think this is going to be dramatically different.
Do you think there's certain jobs or industries that are a good idea? You hear people say, oh, everyone should become like a hairdresser or a plumber because they're kind of AI-proof, or is that going a bit far then?
That might be going a bit far, and I think it's very difficult to see which bits of the job market are going to be most affected. AI is actually automating some really quite intellectual activities at the moment, and as you say, some of the more mundane activities are still some way off. So yeah, very difficult to tell. I think driving is one of the ones that's most at risk.
So Uber drivers and taxi drivers.
Yes, I think that's, in terms of having a big effect on the job market in the near future, I think autonomous cars are probably the biggest threat. But there's many activities which are showing signs of being automated with the technology.
How worried are you about the sort of biggest theory out there that AI could become very devious, could become very negative and almost overtake human intelligence in a bad way?
I think those are two separate things. I think AI is already superhuman in various dimensions, and I think that's a good thing. It's potentially a very useful thing, very good thing for society. The deviousness, the deceptiveness, the doomers who are talking about AI, destroying the human race in time. I think that's somewhat far-fetched.
But not totally far-fetched. I mean, that's kind of interesting. Is it vaguely possible?
You could make an argument it's vaguely possible, but it's not something that's very plausible, in my opinion.
How do we protect against it?
I think there's a lot of research already being done. The big AI labs are very aware of it. There's various protocols for monitoring these models to see how good they are. But I don't think that's the biggest risk. I think there are shorter-term risks that should be have much more of our attention than the long-term concerns about that.
I'm interested in what your view is on what those shorter-term risks are. We've heard a bit from the government, right? They're saying that they want to sort of have this kind of skills training in AI to help people protect themselves against any change to the job market. What are those short-term risks you think the government needs to be kind of focusing on?
Well, in the job market, the short-term risks are about reliability. So the technology has shown enormous new capabilities, but it's not trustworthy. It's wrong some of the time. It can't explain. It invents things. And people use it in their day-to-day life. The government survey said that 3/4 of us are using AI. but only 1 in 6 businesses has found a use for that technology so far to make it more productive, and that's very largely because the technology isn't yet reliable enough or trustworthy enough. That's something that I'm working on right now. But that's the really big gap. It's not, skills is valuable, but the really big gap is for adoption is around making the technology really robust.
The mistakes that you see, basically.
The mistakes, yeah. And then in terms of other risks in society, I think automating fraud. The fact that AI can create videos that are completely convincing, can automate automate emails, automate communication. I think can clone voices. I think there's a lot of risk around that, around human, not AI being devious, but humans being devious with AI.
Just to sort of finish up kind of where we started, but one of the issues, if people want to call it an issue, some wouldn't say it's an issue, of the last 10, 15 years of social media has been free speech. Anyone can say what they like. It's just been massively more amplified than before. And the social media companies haven't been classed as publishers and therefore been responsible for the content themselves. Does that now shift, do you think? I know there's some court cases in the US that are going through. Will the companies be entirely responsible for every answer that these models that we're asking questions because they're coming from a company?
I think that would destroy the industry. I think there's very good reasons why they haven't been categorised as publishers. I mean, an analogy would be making the phone company or the mobile phone companies responsible for anything that's said down the telephone.
If you ask a question to OpenAI or any of the companies, you don't think they should be responsible for the answers?
Oh, I see. So
going forward with AI, do you think that changes it? Yeah.
So I think regulation has to be. If you're going to make a law, the people it's applied to have to be able to follow it. So it would be a very good idea to encourage AI labs to be responsible and to generate answers that are accurate and correct. But at scale, that's not possible with the current technology. So if you made it highly illegal for any wrong answers to be produced, these companies wouldn't be able to operate at all.
Well, I don't think you have to make it illegal, but they have to be responsible, surely, for the answers they give in the same way that a journalistic organisation has to be.
Responsible as in that they would get fined or sued or whatever for every wrong answer. I mean, that may economically put them out of business at the moment with the state of the reliability of the technology. So
there's so many mistakes, basically.
At scale, yes, at enormous scale.
Very telling point.
Even if you're wrong about a small percentage of the time, at scale, that's thousands and thousands and thousands of mistakes.
It's been really interesting to chat. Thank you very much indeed for coming on the programme.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
After the break, we're going to have the latest on the Grammys. Don't go anywhere.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
We've done the work and the reading, so you don't have to. Being a Sky News presenter. Hello and welcome, Westminster, the heart of British politics. I'm so sorry about what happened to you. So what on earth is going on?
It's not true.
Can I tell you what I think? It's really unusual. Mornings with Richard and Frost. Let's crack on. Let's get started.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
Who's funnier?
Being a Sky News journalist.
A special edition of The World with me, Yalda Hakim.
Pakistan had the right to respond.
You're like, what?
Historic day here today. Congratulations, this is a huge moment. But what happens now?
Welcome back. It's been a huge night for British stars at the Grammys, which of course is one of the biggest nights in music.
So they were on early this morning in LA, late night LA, early morning here. Olivia Dean, Lola Young, both Brits picking up awards.
It was also a deeply political evening, as our arts and entertainment correspondent Katie Spencer now reports.
I'm gonna say, eyes out.
It was a night of anger seeping from the Grammys stage. Puerto Rican superstar Bad Bunny impassioned about the immigration operation in Minnesota. One of Britain's best, Olivia Dean, also using her very first Grammy win to speak out.
I guess I want to say I'm up here as a granddaughter of an immigrant. I wouldn't be here. Yeah, I'm a product of bravery, and I think those people deserve to be celebrated.
In the audience, a slightly more subtle stand taken. Ice Out badges worn by the likes of Hailey and Justin Bieber, who also delivered one of the night's stranger moments, inexplicably stripping down to his pants to perform. The late Ozzy Osbourne was celebrated in a tribute led by Post Malone, watched on by the rocker's wife Sharon and their children. In taking home Best Pop, Lola Young ensured there was another big British win, while history was made with Golden, the first ever K-pop song to win a Grammy.
Oh, the Grammy goes to Luther Vandross!
No thanks to Cher confusing his song with his name, Kendrick Lamar became the most awarded hip-hop artist in Grammy's history. While Bad Bunny seemed stunned to take home the big one, Album of the Year, the first ever Spanish-language album to do so. But really this felt less a night about songs, more speeches.
As grateful as I feel, I honestly don't feel like I need to say anything, but that no one is illegal on stolen land.
The volume of anger about America's current stance on immigration, drowning out any celebrations. Katie Spencer, Sky News.
To Gaza now, because Israel has confirmed the Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt has officially opened. So many people hoping to get medical treatment moving from Gaza, also Palestinians too, hoping to go back to their home. How significant is it? And Middle East correspondent Adam Parsons has the latest.
Reopening the Rafah crossing, which is the only way for Gazans to leave Gaza and not end up in Israel, was part of the US-led peace plan. It's absolutely baked into that. But I think the expectation was that reopening the crossing would mean a lot of people being able to go in either direction and trucks full of aid being able to get into Gaza. That is not what we are going to see today. Instead, the reopening of Rafah is going to mean a very limited number of people, but they will be going in either direction, and it will mean no aid lorries being able to get into Gaza from Egypt. So on the one side, you've got people who will be leaving Gaza and going into Egypt. Those people, I expect, will all be either those in need of urgent medical attention or people accompanying those casualties. And that isn't just people wounded by war, that is people suffering from cancer or from long-term illnesses. Remember, the healthcare system in Gaza has been hugely destroyed. So even allowing for a couple of companions each, that's only probably 150 people per day leaving Gaza and going into Egypt. Coming in the other direction, it may be as few as 50 people who are coming back into Gaza. Those will be from the estimated 42,000 who have fled Gaza during the war. So that is a comparative trickle. Now, all of these people are going to be subject to huge security screening. When they leave Gaza going to Egypt, they'll be met by Egyptian forces, also by an EU force. There won't be Israeli officials on the ground, but Israel will be using facial recognition to check everyone leaving. Those who are going into Gaza, again, big security screening and an extra Israeli checkpoint when they go through the Rafah crossing and head towards Gaza. So Israel maintains a very, very strong control on who's coming in and who's going out, a strong control on the numbers. I think there are plenty, notably humanitarian aid organisations, who will be hoping that this is the start, that Israel, once it sees that this is functional, allows the numbers to increase and, crucially, allows aid lorries to get into Gaza. But at the moment, this is hugely symbolic, but in terms of big impact, it's going to be very limited.
Adam Parsons there for us in Jerusalem. After the break, we're going to be talking more about the Middle East, but more specifically about Iran with Sir Richard Dalton. He's the former ambassador to Iran. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Let's turn to Iran now, where the Supreme Leader has warned the United States that any attack will spark a regional war. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's comments are his most direct so far. Donald Trump has said, hopefully, a deal can be made to avoid further military action compared to last summer. Let's speak now to the former British ambassador to Iran, Sir Richard Dalton. Sir Richard, great to have you with us. Thanks so much for joining us. Are you surprised, given the build-up of military assets in the region, given the rhetoric from President Trump that no action has been taken yet, or is this what you would expect?
I'm not surprised. The consequences of starting a regional war are incalculable. The risks to Americans, risks to the region more widely are very great. And President Trump, like others looking at the complex problems that Iran presents, prefers a diplomatic outcome. But there are at least 3 stages to getting an agreement. And we seem to be now at the beginning of the first stage. That's agreeing a set of principles and conditions under which serious negotiations would take place. And there are positive signs coming from Washington and from the Iranian foreign minister. The second stage will be breaking it down into probably at least 4 headings. That's the nuclear program, human rights questions, sanctions relief for Iran in response to any major concessions that they make, and regional security questions. Now, each of these will require a dedicated team, a good deal of time, and a final package agreement may require some trade-offs between gains and losses for each side under each. So that's the second stage. And the third stage, after an interval, will be actually implementing what has been agreed. So at any point in this process, which is months, not weeks, we could get a breakdown and we could get use of more military threats or even attacks.
Is all of this negotiation that you're alluding to just centred on their nuclear program, or is it broader than that? Is it relating to the conditions that the Iranian people have to live in?
That comes under the human rights heading. Now, you're not going to get Iran to agree to change its ruling system, but it is necessary to insist on pledges for better behavior by Iran. And of course, there have to be pledges from the United States side too. No country is going to negotiate seriously under the current very high levels of military threat. The United States needs to dial that down for a period in order to create some minimal confidence in Tehran that a negotiation could end with a positive outcome. Remember that there was a comprehensive negotiation underway in June, which was halted by the Israeli aggression supported by the United States. So the Iranian rulers have got to be persuaded that this time things could potentially be different.
Do you feel for the Iranian people who obviously have revolted and seen significant clampdown with 30,000 plus dead, if not more, in part, perhaps not for large part, but at least in part because of promises seemingly made, whether light-hearted or not by social media, from President Trump that he would act to support them?
There's no confirmed evidence of 30,000 dead. The Iranian figure is probably underestimated, but it's a matter of a few thousands, and that includes several hundred security forces. The important thing, I believe, is for these negotiations to include a pledge by Iran to conduct the independent inquiry to establish the facts that so many in Iran itself are now calling for, even perhaps a United Nations-led inquiry. But yes, of course, I have the greatest sympathy for Iran that has never had the government that it deserves. Iranian people have suffered and are suffering as never before, not just from economic privation and a sense of hopelessness about the future of their country and how it is to be ruled, but also, of course, from the appalling casualties from Iranian repression.
Just finally, Sir Richard, moments like this, it feels like the region as a whole is so unbelievably volatile. Stepping back more, from it all, where do you frame the region as a whole in that sense? So is it possible things could be calmer before too long or not?
It depends on political will and decision-making to affect practical compromises in these talks, amongst other things. But the greatest threats to the stability of the region are actually Israel and the United States, given their penchant for major military action and the absence of serious political plans to deal with the chaos which that military action takes place. And we do not want to see a repetition of what happened in Iraq, in Libya, in Yemen. And the people of Iran, the one thing they are hoping for is that there will be an ordered dismantling of this oppressive ruling system, not a system change brought about by foreign military aggression. So some restraint is required in Washington and a more realistic appreciation of the virtues of the approach taken by previous administrations. And that, of course, requires a major effort of persuading Israel and Israelis that their preference for a major attack on Iran is misplaced. And we all know how difficult it is to influence Israel.
So, Richard, thanks for joining us. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Let's have a look at the weather.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors Sky News weather.
There's more rain to come this week, bringing a risk of flooding, especially to the saturated southwest. Most places can expect near average temperatures today, but a stiff wind will make it feel colder, especially in the northeast and southwest. It'll be fairly gloomy away from the far northwest as well, with the chance of a little drizzly rain just about anywhere. Northeastern Britain will see heavier showers running in, bringing snow to northern Scottish hills, while the far southwest of both England and Ireland will see more general rain later. South Wales, the southeast of Ireland and southwestern England will see rain moving in overnight.
All Clear Travel Insurance proudly sponsors Sky News weather.
Up next, we'll be joined by the chair of the Public Accounts Committee, Sir Jeffrey Clifton-Brown. Don't go nowhere.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist? I'm going to take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live. They have gone up and up. Being a Sky News journalist. Ed Conway, Sky News, is anyone going to talk to us? Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office. Here it is. First off, just the scale of what we're looking at. Our data shows it's been happening. Question is, why it hasn't been stopped.
The government and NHS England are being accused of failing to take meaningful steps to tackle the rising cost of clinical negligence. That's according to a new report from a group of MPs.
So we just wanted to explain exactly what we're talking about, right, and look at some of the numbers. So this is the Public Accounts Committee and the government's liability for clinical negligence. So in other words, people suing the NHS, effectively, has quadrupled over the last 20 years to £60 billion.
Claimant legal fees more than tripled to £538 million in the year 2024 to 2025.
And in some cases, there was a cost-to-damages ratio of 3.7 to 1, which means, if you're wondering what that's all about, like me, it means that victims are paying more in legal fees than the damages that they would actually receive.
And by the end of the decade, settlement costs are estimated to rise over £4 billion.
So this is a massive deal. Let's talk to Sir Jeffrey Brown, who is chair of the Public Accounts Committee, who joins us. It's obviously important to say that every one of these claims is somebody who something awful has happened to, right? But at the same time, it's an awful lot of money that, you know, taxpayers at the end of the day are having to fork out.
So thank you for explaining the numbers, but as you quite rightly say, every single one of these cases is a human tragedy. Something's gone wrong, that's why they're making a claim. But as you say, the total nation's liability, £60 billion, quadrupled in the last number of years, but unfortunately rising to £4 billion each year. So this is a big, big subject, and the money could usefully be used in the NHS to provide other services.
Sorry.
Yes, of course.
If things have quadrupled, do we put that down to there being 4 times worse health outcomes or 4 times more outcomes that cross the line to being clinically negligent? Or is there a change in the ability for people to hold the NHS to account, or is it somewhere in between?
So I think what we found was that there are a small number of very large legal claims, and some of them can go up to £11 million and take 11 years to settle. And this is what's really pushing the cost up. Of course, there are the ones at the bottom, as we've already said, where the legal costs are unacceptable for claims under 25,000. 3.7 times the legal costs on those 25,000 than the claimant is actually getting. But it's the big ones at the top that are really pushing the bill up. And of course, it's a legal bill as well. £537 million legal bill each year, one of the largest legal bills in government.
So what can the government do? I mean, is this basically a case of saying, actually, you know what, the government just needs to stop making these... Or not the government, the NHS just needs to stop making these mistakes? Or actually, should we be thinking a bit more about, is it right that this number of people are able to take legal action against the NHS?
Well, so there are a lot of things in that question. Basically, at the bottom end, if the National Health got it right first time and reduced the number of claims, of course, the cost would come down. So what have they got to do to reduce these numbers of claims? They've got to look systematically where mistakes are made and systematically look across the health service to see how they can put it right. It might be by exchanging better data. It might be by better training where things go wrong. But that's a relatively simple thing to put right. And we've got Baroness Amos' review into health safety at the moment. We've got David Locke QC's recommendations looking at the whole system. They will undoubtedly make recommendations, but the NHS itself really needs to learn the lessons to try and reduce all of these instances.
In terms of the top end of the spectrum, what sort of examples, presumably some of those have been settled, so you can talk about them. Are those avoidable going forward? Are there obvious areas of errors where we could scrub out those particular payouts in future?
Well, they are, of course, the more complex ones, often where the greatest damage has been caused. And, of course, what the settlement is involving is a settlement for the damage done for the life. And if you've got a child that's been damaged, you're settling for the life of that child on things like healthcare provision, housing, loss of job earnings. All of these things are taken into account at that final hearing. But there is one thing that we do highlight in our report, and it's this. In that settlement, they are providing for that person to have treatment, private treatment for the rest of their life. very often that person then goes off and gets treatment from the National Health. So effectively the National Health is paying twice. So we think that the law needs to be changed. So at the time the settlement is made, at the time of the court case, the judge is able to inquire as to what sort of care that person is expecting to have. And we think that could reduce the complexity and the costs at the end of the day.
It's important, you know, as you did at the beginning, to reflect on how awful these tragedies are for people. We're talking about children here, we're talking about people giving birth. It's the worst possible thing. And I know you talked about the higher payouts. I was really struck, I have to say, though, with that stat, what we did on the legal costs. Is there an issue with some lawyers, you know, I guess kind of an awful lot of money going out on lawyers?
Well, I've talked to the lawyers at the highest level in this country, and they all recognise that. We haven't made specific recommendations how the legal system needs to be reformed, but I guess it's like the health system, it's too complicated. The health system is fiendishly complicated. The poor people who are delivering this care are operating under a fiendishly complicated, huge number of recommendation system. The legal system is the same, and I think we need to be looking at the legal system to see how we can simplify it. And after all, what we should really be doing is looking for alternative dispute resolutions, trying to keep these cases out of court, settle them quicker so that the claimants get the money quicker, and NHS resolution is starting to do that. And what is really tragic, we found in our report, is actually lots of people get into the litigious system, the legal system, because they're not getting answers from the health service. They simply need answers. Once they get answers, they then feel more happy about the situation. And I think the NHS could do a lot to resolve that.
That's definitely something we've picked up on, I think, when we've been doing reports on maternity care and some of those.
I think, to put it into a simple nutshell, actually very often just an apology. I had one case, it took me months to get to see the chief executive with my constituent, and all she wanted, she said, I don't want a legal case, I don't want any money, I want an apology.
Exactly.
Well, Sir Jeffrey, thanks so much. Good to
Thank you.
Now, Jackie's here with the sport and action-packed day yesterday, as so often the case on a Sunday. But
started early.
Started early on the tennis, yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, no, it wasn't an amazing final yesterday between Alcaraz and Novak Djokovic, and I don't think anyone expected it, given, you know, the extraordinary lengths both men had gone to in the semi-finals, you know, the most incredible semis, and very long and a real battle. So they both went in a bit sort of battle-weary, and an amazing start Djokovic made, straight out the traps, raced away with the first set, and at one point you could see Carlos Alcaraz saying to his box, impossible, kind of didn't know what to do with the tennis that he was facing. But as always, he finds a way. He has this great ability to, when he's a bit under the cosh, raise his level and find this extraordinary, out-of-this-world, heaven-sent tennis from nowhere. And he, you know, not many people have that, and he definitely has that. And he just sort of raced away with the middle two sets. The fourth set was much more of a contest when Djokovic sort of found a second wind, and you know really battled for it. But he couldn't do anything. You were asking earlier about the age gap, which was 16 years between them. It's not the biggest age gap. The biggest age gap is Ken Rosewall and Jimmy Connors, 1974 Wimbledon, 1974 US Open, 17 years and 304 days, so nearly 18 years.
Wow.
But this is pretty close, though,
So
I have to say.
That is
first for a while with that gap.
It's pretty close, and you and I both talking about the speech afterwards that Djokovic made, and he sort of hogged the microphone a little bit.
He did a bit, yeah.
And he just sort of say, I know it's your moment, but I just want to say, and it was like he was given a farewell speech. I don't know if I'll be in this position again in a final of a Grand Slam, so I'm going to take my moment. And that, you know, that 25th Slam that he really desires, it just seems ever so far away when you see what he's facing.
Yeah.
Alcaraz, Sinner. Yeah, no, absolutely. Were you happy yesterday at the end of the footballing day?
Fantastic.
Arsenal, huge winners yesterday. Even though they didn't play yesterday, they played on Saturday, and it was, I don't know if you watched this match, it was an extraordinary match between Spurs and Man City. Man City looked like they were from another planet in the first half of this match at White Hart Lane. 2-0 up, very much in command. There's Semenyo with his somersault. But huge comeback from Spurs in the second half.
And here we end with this Spurs equaliser. We're out of time. Thanks so much for watching.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
We've done the work and the reading, so you don't have to. Being a Sky News presenter.
Hello and welcome. Westminster, the heart of British politics.
I'm so sorry about what happened to you. So what on earth is going on?
It's not true.
Can I tell you what I think? It's really unusual. Mornings with Ridge and Frost. Let's crack on. Let's get started.